They have begun. Okay. So, we're going to start off a little bit strange here with the Twisted League. It's too late. Because Twisted League was the first league. So as we're going through the relics, there's going to be quite a few that are already just going to be a little weird. Right? And I'm going to try to do my best to... That green logged? Oh, for the combat achievements. Yes. Usually green log means collection log. But yeah, you finished all the combat achievements for Wintertodd. Heck yeah. Yeah. It is all that does turn green when you're dude with it, so it's not like a. Yeah, that's. You're not wrong. It was just I don't know how I've heard that. Other than that, but heck yeah. Now you understand why Fletch. So for example here, right? I guess yeah. To introduce Twisted League, it originally ran, November 2019 to January 2020. Whew. What a time. They didn't know. They didn't know yet. Yeah, and this was sort of a way to try out the new game mode. And they planted everybody on Great Corrend and Kebos Lowlands. So, two things to note. That this was old Corrend. Well, I guess sort of Corrend 2.0, which is definitely better than Corrend 1.0. There's been some, because Corrend has had its map updated twice. Yeah, so when it first came out, it was a lot more bricked like this, just kind of stacked, and these hard squares. And then, what's up, Brayden? Then it was redesigned to look like this. Yeah, so you had the castle, and then you've got this saltpeter, right? It definitely looks different. Right, and this was before the Wintertodd. Heck yeah, that's great to hear. Yeah, and then it's changed 6 times. Oh, just a few things, but yeah, the big one was during the large rebalance that added expanded Shazian a lot. But Yeah, some before and after as far as what Hosidius used to look like versus what it looks like now. Yeah, so lots of that. So this came out during this, but before Shazian. Or it might have been on this. Well, I guess we can find out, huh? Came out in 2019. Oh, sure, yeah. 2019 rework. Yeah, so this was after this to sort of bring people in and say that, yeah, thank you for the head pat. So yeah, people weren't super familiar with the content. It had just been reworked. They're really pushing it, so they wanted to bring people in. Yeah, so you were 100% locked to the Korend and Kebos areas. Everybody plays as an Iron Man, and they just gave a flat 5 times experience rate to the entire league, which is notable that's going to change in future leagues. But we'll burn that bridge when we get to it. And and then it starts you off at 3 Herblore, so that way you can actually train Herblore. It auto-completed the Herblore quest, and everybody started with 15 agility because that's the lowest level agility requirement for the Shazian course. So that way you can actually train agility. Yep, they finished Druidic Ritual. They auto-completed Rune Mysteries, so you can Essence Mine, and so you can do all the content, but they didn't auto-complete basically any other quests. And and then also interesting thing here is they changed the drops so that way you just get them, right? So for example, the Kodai Insignia, they replaced the Kodai Insignia with the Kodai Wand, because in order to get the Kodai Wand, you need to upgrade a Master Wand from the desert with the Kodai Insignia to get a Kodai Wand. So they made it so that way, like, the rare drops, you would actually, like, get the thing. So similar with the Hydra Leather. You get Ferocious Gloves instead of needing to upgrade Barrow's Gloves, and Hydra also just drops the full Dragon Hunter Lance. Very important to note. But as we get into these, so the first one, Abyssal Accumulator, it just gives you an Ava's Accumulator from the start. I think that this was, well, I guess we'll go through all the tiers in a whole, because I think that that's thank you. This is the biggest thing. And to start off, this choice here between saving 85% of your ammo or having unlimited run energy and 4x hit point restoration, or bones automatically buried and you get 4x experience, and you drain and you get double your prayer, and you get 2 ensouled heads, which is important to note, are really good in Korend. So, big prayer bonus, unlimited run energy, or save 85% of your ammunition. So, Endless Endurance was the most picked choice, right? To the point where it was the first meme. This was the walkers versus the runners. As far as the meme of leagues go, nobody wants to be a walker because you locked in this relic choice and you couldn't take it back. And so you just see everybody running around everywhere in Core End, because Core End has a large space, not a ton of teleports between the two. So you just have people just walking around, just running around, going and doing all the stuff. And then, of course, because the community is kind of toxic, they would definitely be running around people who are walking to like really flex on them. They're like, oh, imagine being a walker. On top of 4x hit point restoration is really, really good in Old Wintertodt as well. This was by far the most commonly picked choice. So let's just go ahead and put that one in S. Will be in next. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So again, this is the list of how likely they will be in here, right? And I know that Unlimited Run is going to be in the next league because it was such a thing that they made it so that every single league, everybody would have Unlimited Run. Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness. Is it a cute little cafe where I can order myself a cafe au lait with soy milk? So on that note, I 100% know that Auto Run will be in the next league because it has been 100% confirmed to be in every future league. Also on that note, Abyssal Accumulator was the second most picked choice, which is funny because I do think that this is a stronger choice than Accumulator. But, yeah, people, the auto burying bones when so much of your Slayer training is going to be in the Catacombs of Core End that restores your prayer bonus, and you're in here, like, that's just such a cycle. Like, it makes so much combat training so much better. But yeah, but Abyssal Accumulator, it's pretty plain, right? It is a tier 1 relic, but saving 85% of your ammos, whatever, saving 85% of your runes is great as well. Because I think this was for all casts, not just combat spells. So saving 85% of your law runes to teleport was crazy good, because there's no shop in Zaya that sells law runes. So the only way to get law runes was to get them from medium and hard clues. So like saving law runes was very real in the league. And I also know that both of these effects will very likely be in the next league because they both got split up and added into other set effects that have occurred multiple times. I have every reason to believe that that there will be a relic that lets you save 85%, save like 70% of your ammo or whatever. Arcane, welcome in. We're making some content. How's it going, Goober? It's been a second since I've been able to peek in and see you. I hope that the UIMs has been going well. We're talking about how likely I think how likely we are to re-see previous relics. Mm-hmm. Heck yeah. It is a relaxing time for sure. So on that note, Dark Altar. Oh, underscore. Oh. Aw, thank you, thank you. Yeah. Well, go click on Arcane and follow them manually. I get it, I get it. So, Dark Altar Devotion, yeah. So, auto burying bones, I think is a really freaking cool idea to put in something. I don't think that'll actually be. I don't think we'll see it though. Where's that plus sign? So I guess it's 100%, 80%, 60%, 40%, 20%, 0%. So I think that there's like a 20% chance that we'll see a relic that does this. Slight bit of modification. We have no idea what the combat tree or whatever that's like the special thing for Leagues 5 is going to be. I could definitely see, I would put like I guess probably like a 60% chance that if there's more than 2 choices on this combat tree, I bet one of them's going to be auto burying bones. Not. I don't think they're going to reduce the prayer drain rate because that's insane. That is so much better than anybody thought it was. Effectively doubling your prayer level and also like making every single prayer potion heal twice as much is so crazy. Out of a tier 1 relic. All people who have never been here go, oh. A local hotspot. I like those too. So yeah, that's tier 1. Then as we go into tier 2, this is where we see an interesting one. So Hardcore Harvester is an interesting one for people who know about Leagues because it's kind of familiar, but weird that it's tier 2. So players receive triple of gathering resources, of mining, fishing, woodcutting. Triple herbs is pretty interesting. And blast mine makes sense because triple mining, and that's sort of like a marquee activity in Core End. They want more people to do it, so make that. And triple farming contract, like triple farming contract seeds was also wild, right? Triple herbs and triple seeds from farming contracts is so much. You don't get bonus XP though. You just get more, which means that you do get a lot more effective cooking, smithing, fire making, probably fletching, mostly fletching, and herb lore XP is good. It just makes mining and fishing kind of a pain in the ass. Triple mulch pearls is definitely good because those take fucking forever to get anything, and there was a few tasks there. And farming ticks occur 5 times faster. So you're getting 3x herbs, 5x and 3x farming contract seeds. So this absolutely annihilated herb lore. But yeah, basically this was kind of OP, and in later leagues was scaled back significantly and still became a good one, to the point where I'm going to say there's a 100% chance that we're going to get a 3x gathering 3x gathering tier 1 relic. I feel very confident in that there's going to be some degree of mining more mining more ore as an early game, as one of the first relics that you have a choice of. Although farming ticks every 5 minutes, like 5x. So this was also really funny too, because this was for all farming ticks, which included weeds growing. So weeds grow 5 times faster too. Was kind of a pain in the ass for a few people, for a decent amount of people who hated Tithe Farm, because this was before they made Tithe Farm an instance. So you were fighting with everybody in the league in order to get Tithe Farm points, and it was a total. It was awful. It was awful. Yeah. So, Arcane Courier, which we will see this thing again. But all supply crates from the Wintertod, as well as resources gathering from mining, fishing, woodcutting, farming, and the blast miner, automatically sent to the bank. Really interesting, right? You just sit here and you just chop a tree forever, and it just gets sent to your bank. And also the Wintertod, which is really funny because now Wintertod, all of the supplies, they don't stack up in your inventory. Very simple when compared to this, but made so many things so AFK, right? Fishing, mining, woodcutting was a crazy good way to say it. And I will also say that I think there's a 100% chance that a sending your stuff straight to the bank will be coming back. Because I think that these two are going to get rolled into the same one, like they did last league. Where you mine 3x the amount of ore and it gets auto-sent to the bank as a way to punch it up. Because they're pretty similar as far as like gathering skills. And then to brick form here, you've got Unnatural Selection, which was the most talked about version, other than the Endless Endurance. But Unnatural Selection lets you choose your farming contracts and your Slayer tasks, which turns out that actually made your farming contracts, you more than tripled the amount of seeds in your farming contracts because you just planted one of everything in the farming guild and you just went down the line harvesting and getting those contracts. So you just never needed more seeds. It was very wild. And picking your Slayer task was actually a little bit, so picking your Slayer task, right, you're only on core end, so that kind of offsets Konar, right? Because your only Slayer Master is Konar, who normally tells you what to kill and where to kill it. It's like double restrictive. But yeah, well, picking your Slayer task with Konar, when almost every single Slayer task only has one place to kill it, like basically removes all of the Konar stuff. Yeah, so like, and it pulled up this giant unwieldy little dialogue thing where you've got like 1 through 9 and then A through X, because it also like lets you pick
He's pulling his cock out!
It let you pick your Slayer task, like, kind of, like, eventually you sort of, like, age out when you level up too much. You, like, stop getting lower tier tasks assigned to you. But this let you extend that period, like, to a greater degree than normal, too. It was a little bit weird. So it meant that you could get, like sand crabs tasks, like pretty, like fairly late, which was interesting. But yes, and this has come back in previous leagues, the Unnatural Selection, but I don't actually. In fact, you can see they literally reused the icon. I would say that there's a 40% chance that there's going to be a choose your Slayer task relic. This is a bit of a sore point among the community because there's a lot of people complaining about wanting to be able to choose their Slayer task again. A little bit of foreshadowing. And I think they're wrong, but there's enough complaining that they could put it in. And it is pretty cool to be able to choose your Slayer task. And we'll go over the reason why. Like, there is one... there is, like, a fair argument for choosing your Slayer task other than it is just fun. And we'll get to that in Leagues 4. So, Tier 3 relics. You're coming up, and you can see that there's a bit of an escalation to the amount of points you need in order to unlock these relics. So, 0, 400, 1200, right? So, 3x, and then when we go over here, 2500, more than double, but less than 3x. So this was kind of a large jump in order to get to Tier 3. You were in Tier 2 for a while. And I think that this is probably this is the biggest failure, actually, of Twisted League. They didn't know that yet, which is totally fair, and I'm glad that they made these mistakes early on. So, players receive 2x experience from smithing, cooking, firemaking, herb lore, fletching, crafting, and construction. This stacks with the 5x experience multiplier. So it turns into 10x experience for all of your artisan skills, your gathering skills, mining, fishing, woodcutting, hunter, thieving, farming, runecraft, or combat. And so this is kind of a tough one because they all do the same thing, right? And I think that there is, depending on how we want to scale it, right? There's no way this is going to be a right, and the hammer. So there's no way this is going to be a relic because first off, expanding it out to making you choose between combat or half of skilling is like wild, right? Like this is such a whatever. And also you've been sitting here for a while and this doesn't change your gameplay. This just makes you not smith or complete smithing tasks because you want the XP for getting the for getting this, right? And also yeah. And then you can kind of see where there's this hardcore harvester or courier where you're like getting rewarded a bunch for gathering. And so you go use it and then you're like, well, do I want to take this thing? Because I already cut a bunch of wood. I already cut a bunch of fish. Caught a bunch of fish, right? I don't want to waste the XP. Whereas like I have a bunch of fish in my bank. Maybe I want 10x XP cooking, but cooking is the fastest skill in the game. Right, like, or you just got these two things that give you a fuckload of herbs, so like you don't really need to double your herb lore. Yeah, you don't need to double your herb lore XP because you just got a fuckload of herbs. Right? But yeah, so we know that these aren't going to be there because they have baked in a progressive XP multiplication system that we'll cover in the next one. Oh, thanks for cupping in. I appreciate it. Yeah, so this progressive scaling up of XP is baked in and isn't a choice, and it's for everything. And this was honestly the biggest failure because again, you at 400 points, you got a thing that changed the way you play the game. And then you needed to go all the way to 2,500 points when you're earning these in like 50s, right? There's 10, points of 10, points of 50, maybe 100 at this point in the game. Right? Like, it's so many tasks. And like a task can be like 20 minutes to an hour. Like, there's so much content in between when things change. This is where the largest fall off period was, because you weren't doing anything and you're still like bumping arms with people because Corrin was not designed to have that many people in it. So, Tier 4, Spirit of Din. Players no longer take damage from the Wintertodt. The Wintertodt attacks no longer interrupt you, and you get 3x loot. So, that's crazy. And, right, Wintertodt is kind of like one of the marquee pieces of content. So, especially if you took 10x fire making XP, you're like, I'm going to make Wintertodt completely AFK. You don't need any food when you're in there. You just stand there and you just keep dumping stuff in and you get 3x supply crates. Cool. That's how I'm going to get all of my logs, I guess. I don't know. So this one's also I think there's going to be a 0% chance that that's coming back, because I don't think we're going to get any like Wintertodt help other than like, I don't know, like a buffing the rate of points, maybe. But you know, this wasn't a mistake, right? This was definitely like, you know, a whole league piece of content around only being on Zaya, and you're gonna get a few of these, right? Here's another interesting one though. Konar's Blessing. 10% increase in accuracy and damage in all attack styles, or a 30% on a Slayer task, which is a lot, right? The biggest thing that comes to mind here is a Slayer helm. Which gives you a 16.5% damage and accuracy, and then when it is imbued, right? When imbued with points, it gives a 15% boost to damage and accuracy. So the thing to note is that in order to get the Slayer helm, you need a black mask, which can only be gotten in Mauritania. So there's no Slayer helm in this league, which means that this is the only way to get a bonus for damage while on a Slayer task, and it is better. And you get a nice 10% on the back. So I think this is actually a pretty well-designed task for, again, rewarding Slayer. And this actually wasn't that large of a buff, right? Considering general league stuff. Because this is also the first thing that's made you deal more damage in all of these, right? Saving ammo, getting to choose your Slayer task. But there's a very real progression of people who are very interested in, like, Chambers of Xeric, for example. But also, like, being on a Slayer task while on Chambers, like, what task would you get, right? Like, there's not, like, an Olm task, right? There's not, like, a dragon task that Olm fits under. So, like, and I don't know what I don't know what classification, like, I don't know, Muttadiles are, for example, right? But I think this was a cool bit of thing, and something that they were trying to play around with, and I think they found a way to handle it. But for this one here, this was actually pretty good. It was a little underpicked, because the people who made it this far were like hardcore skillers, and because of this thing. But I would say that there's like a 20% chance of like a bonus damage against Slayer creatures thing. I definitely don't see 10% against everything, but I could definitely see some sort of offsets not having a Slayer helm while on a Slayer task being included in a relic. Oof. Sippy's time. Okay. So, and here's the big one, Treasure Seeker. This has been a wild one, and without getting too far into it, without burying the lead, I'm just gonna throw this into the 100% chance. This one has not been officially confirmed, but I would be very, very surprised if there wasn't a treasure seeker relic, and you will see that as we go through how there has been a treasure seeker relic in literally every league. So, increases your chance of getting clue scrolls by a lot. 10x. Right, 1 in 10 chance of getting a clue scroll. 10 times the amount of clue scrolls from clue geodes, clues nests, clue bottles, and they stack. So you just carry them all and you just have 50 medium clues in your inventory. And all clues have the lowest number of steps possible for their tier. So you just blast through clues. You take this on top of the leagues having I think it was like a 3x. There was like a 3 times drop rate ad, or maybe this wasn't here. Yeah, maybe they didn't put that in there. But anyways, you blasting through these and also doing clues, like doing X amount of whatever clues has always been a lot of tasks. So this is also a good way to get points and accelerate you into the 2,500, 5,000, literally double the amount of points that you need in order to get to the next tier. Right? Like they start stacking up, similar to how, how much more XP you need in between levels in RuneScape. So there's a ton of points that you can squeeze out of this, especially if you like doing clues. Because there's like getting X amount of uniques from clues, doing X amount of clues, getting X amount of collection log slots from clues, which I feel kind of overlaps, but they've done it a lot, so I'd be surprised if that wasn't included here too. Yeah. Plus, again, getting clues was the only way to get law runes and nature runes in the league. So this also like made it so that you didn't have to worry about teleporting while you were in Korend because you couldn't buy law runes. Yeah, it was a time. It was a time for sure. So this was heavily picked by people. Ugh. And we've got ourselves a jump scare coming up. So I'm going to take a second and nom a little bit of my snacko while we are clearing the ad. Make sure to rest up yourself, stretch out, rest your eyes, look at something more than 20 feet away from you for at least 20 seconds. And we will be back in just a few minutes. Whew. And for my shrimpies who are around, how are we liking the content? as we're about to hit into the last tier of leagues. The last tier of Leagues 1, the Twisted League. And I'm gonna crunch just a little bit. Heck yeah. Well, I'm glad to be able to, like, talk about this with some granularity before I start going off and going really in depth about what the new spoilers are going to be in like 2 weeks. To sort of help establish like a baseline form of knowledge. I am excited for your first leagues too. One of my favorite things is that there's going to be quite a few things that we have that we're going to do collectively. Like, our experience is going to be the same, but the way that we go about it is going to be very different, and it's going to be like account to account based. Blitzed out on painkillers, oh geez. So you'll be recovering like on Thanksgiving Day? Cuz that's the only concerning thing. Yes, it's a month away. You'll be recovered okay. Yeah. It's a bit buried in here. But interesting. I thought I posted it here. But no worries. We can go over here and welcome back from the jump scare. Announcements. Yep. Launches November 27th. So it is on a Wednesday. So it's the day before it's the day before American Thanksgiving, which is gonna be a common stress point for a few people. That normally are around family for multiple days during that and not playing RuneScape but different. So Heck yeah. I'm comfy too. Glad to share. So, as we're getting in, this is the last tier of relics. 5,000 points. This is the last tier of relics from the original Twisted League. And they really do get pretty interesting. And you can see sort of the through line of their design. Where we've got one that increases your attack speed by 1 tick with all weapons, including magic spells. So, right, your dragon dagger attacks at 3 ticks instead of 4. A significant increase in DPS with everything, especially with the stuff that is already good. Turning 4-tick attack weapons into 3-tick attack weapons is wild. So it just makes the best weapons even better. Funnily enough, that actually is a little counterintuitive with the best weapon, the Twisted Bow, which is, the mega rare in the raid. So like not super planning around it, but pretty interesting. And increasing your attack speed, I'm gonna put as 100%. Because we have seen, you will see that they do even more than that. So I think that this is pretty fair to say that everybody's gonna get reduced attack speed. And it is going to be in relics. Xeric's Resilient. Players take 50% less damage from all monsters was insane. And you restore 1 prayer point every 3.6 seconds. So, the thing that I think was insane that people really didn't see was this restoring 1 prayer point every 3 seconds. On top of prayer draining being halved. Is so much prayer. On top of 50% less damage. That's wild. At how much that would just be, yeah. Like, how many more other supplies, how many more non-prayer potions you would have to leave in? And 50% less damage, you're taking 50% less food into a raid, right? Endgame player, you're doing Chambers of Xeric. There's literally nothing to do in the endgame in this league other than Chambers of Xeric, where you take half damage. Also, funny thing to note, when this originally came out, there was a bug where you couldn't die because it would calculate off of the damage. It's the same reason why things deal why you go to 1 HP in the Nightmare Zone for absorptions. Like, if something's max hit is a 30, but you only have 20 hit points, it only rolls up to whatever your max hit was. This was applied in a very favorable place to you. So yeah, if you only have 20 current HP, it won't roll 30 and put you into the negatives. It will roll up to your maximum health, and then this applied, so you like literally couldn't get one shot. Like, it was not even one shot, right? Like, it was, yeah, for like a week, this was, you like literally can't die. So, which only makes this better. And yeah, restoring a prayer point every 3.6 seconds is the only reason why I'm going to put this at 20% chance. Because I think that actually having a way to restore your prayers semi-passively, I do think is going to be part of whatever combat tree that we have. very similar to the auto-burying bones, and I bet they might even be the same choice. Getting to choose that instead of damage as like a quality of life enhance, instead of getting like, some sort of damage add or utility add or something. It might be on the same tier as like your splash damage dealing more damage or something like that. I don't know. But there's a 0% chance that taking half damage from all monsters is coming back. There might be a 10% damage reduction from all damage sources. 50% is insane. And then, to knock this off, we've got Xerix Wisdoms. Player receive 2x experience from all skills. Which, there was a whole thing that turned your 5x into 10x. This was 10x experience. Right, double. It was multiplicative. It wasn't additive. So this turned 5x experience into 10x experience, which means that if you chose this, one of yours turned into 20 times experience, which was also a fuckload. And it turned everything else into 10x experience. But this was the last thing. So you had already spent like a month in the league right now, and now you finally have 10x experience. So this was what some people picked who wanted to like max their account and be done with it just for the points, because there's a lot of league points tied into getting 99s in your skills. Getting 99s in all skills was also a pretty big task. Yeah. And that was it. Very bare bones, as we will go forward and see. And you will see that the general design philosophy was there was like, in every tree, there was like a skiller and a combat one, right? Like, you can kind of see like, oh, endless endurance for the people who want to run around and do more farm runs. And then you've got this, save your ammunition or auto bury your bones and, double your prayer pool for the people who want to be like stabbing stuff. And then you come over here and there's, harvesting 3x amount for the people who want to be running around back and forth, getting a million fish. Or you've got unnatural selection for the people who want to pick their Slayer contracts to keep stabbing people, right? Literally, I just want double XP. I just want to max my combats. I don't give a fuck about what they're doing over here, fighting over rocks at the mining place. Or, right, those people. Same thing. You've got the people, oh, I want to be running around and do a bunch of clue scrolls. Or, oh, I just want to AFK my face off at the Wintertod. Or the people who want to deal more damage, right? The people who want to deal more damage. Or the people who want to, literally make it impossible for them to die at Ulm so they can just absolutely push through any content, whatever, learn on baby mode. Or the people who just want to skill. I don't want to touch anything, right? And part of this, I think, was Jagex sort of learning. It had been a while, but they still, from a development standpoint, had the old, like, content memes, I guess. And they're starting to see it, but forcing everybody to be an iron while they were still planning on like a PVMer versus skiller sort of mindset, right? Where, because before Iron Man was a mode, the like biggest snowflake account that people would have are level 3 skillers, people who like literally don't level up combat and try to progress as much as they can without doing any combat, right? And so you can kind of see that this is like for the people who want to do the raid, and the people who just want to skill and just want to be level 3 forever, right? And I think that was sort of the biggest duality piece, and that was the biggest thing that made a few of these choices a bit of a pisser. Yeah, but it was tremendously successful. When Twisted League launched, this was January 2020. This was the largest. They hit peak players. They had old school RuneScape had never had any people logged on. They had a peak amount of players. Yeah, during Twisted League. Like a week into Twisted League, the most amount of players that have ever been logged into the game. It was very successful. So they ran another one. So they ran the Trailblazer League in 2020. This one was the big doozy. I think the Trailblazer League is like one of the capstone features that really pushed RuneScape's player base, and how enfranchised people are is almost directly tied to Trailblazer League. It was the 1-2 punch of them releasing the mobile client and Trailblazer. And Trailblazer came out October 2020, less than a year after the first one. During like 2020, it was being worked on during 2020 by the developers, which is absolutely crazy to think about, right? That they were navigating like how the hell to like work remote and just made this. Because yeah, like the 2020 pandemic came out. The 2020 pandemic happened like right at the launch of RuneScape's mobile client. So there were so many people at home who could play RuneScape on their phone. It was crazy. But this started the Trailblazer map of area restricted, where you could play the whole game, but not all of it. To start off, everybody started in Mistlin, the starting area of Lumbridge, where everybody starts out off. Every single time they create a new character, you get spawned right outside of Lumbridge. That didn't change. So you popped in right in Lumbridge Castle like you were used to, but then you went through a whole dialogue menu where it showed you you're a Trailblazer. You've got to unlock the regions, and you're not going to unlock all of them, but we're going to show you how do you do it by unlocking Karamja, the region that nobody would pick if you didn't get it for free. Because there's just not much here. But so everybody starts off in Mistlin and Karamja, and on top of unlocking relics for points, for completing just a numerical series of tasks, you can unlock up to 3 areas. Interesting thing to note, there was no Korand, because the previous league, everybody was on Korand. So like, this is a way to freshen things up, mix it up. Nobody gets to go to Korand. Now that you know what everything is, league's going to be all different. So you got these 2, and then you got to pick 3 areas. And I think the big thing that people did mostly was Kandarin, Asgarnia, and Mauritania. I think it was what most people picked as their 3 regions. Mostly because Mauritania had the Theater of Blood, the second raid. Right, the first raid was in Korand, so the highest piece of endgame content is over there. Everybody's planning on going super hard. And everybody loves God Wars. It's Pedro time. Everybody continues to be an Iron Man. Players start with 5x experience rate, 3 Herblore, 5 Runecraft, 10 agility. You can do everything. And new area interface. And Yeah, you can kill people in the wilderness. You just can't get your stuff because you're all irons. Tasks, areas, relics. All right. And we can see that there's a few of these that came back. Endless harvest. Resources gathered from fishing, woodcutting, mining will be multiplied by 2. Not by 3, but it's a level 1. And the resources you have gathered are sent directly to the bank if you have space. Otherwise not, they will be placed into your inventory. That is both of these tied into one and scaled down a little bit. So that way it's a tier 1 relic. And if we pull this one, you might see that the same picture is here. Oh, not quite. My face is in the way. Boop, boop. That it might have come back. So I would say there's a 100% chance that that's coming back. Production Master. This one is an interesting one. When doing the following activities, all items will be processed at once, awarding full XP. Smelting ores, smithing bars, making cannonballs, fletching logs, cutting bolt tips, cleaning herbs, making potions, cooking food, making jugs of wine, crafting leather, uncut gems, glass. So, a lot of your production or artisan skills happen all at once. It saves you time. Which is savings a lot of time, and you have like almost no downtime. Right? You go stand there and you cut a full inventory worth of logs, and then you fletch them all in one tick. So you're actually spending almost as much time cutting wood as these endless harvest people are. They're just getting twice as many logs per chop, but you're and you just slam it all out all at once. Really interesting. And yeah, a really big thing of like AFK gameplay versus very active gameplay. Both of them are very rewarding, and I think that that's a very good choice. Right, I think that those are very well balanced against each other. And if we pull this one up, you might see that Jagex might agree with me here. And lastly, Skilling Prodigy. All non-combat skills will be permanently boosted by 12, which allows you to make higher tier potions or cut higher tier logs earlier, right? Imagine you sort of start at level 13, but you still level up 12 faster. So this hyper accelerates your early game. We will eventually restart. Yeah. So you sort of start at level 13, say woodcutting, for example. So you go chop logs until you're level 3, right? You gain 2 woodcutting levels from logs, and then you go straight to oak logs at level 3 instead of level 15, but you're still getting a level 15's worth of XP, so it absolutely slingshots you really quickly. And once you have gotten past that, it does nothing. It's very front-loaded, and a lot of people saw it. This was the least picked by far, and I think it is very powerful, but people love their value. And if we see here, Skilling Prodigy, this one does not have the exact same icon next to it. I would put, however, that there's going to be an 80% chance that there will be some form of relic that boosts non-combat skills by a large amount. Might be 12. We'll see. For the reason that it has happened before. It has been rolled into another relic. Tier 2. Tier 2. Here we've got the next meme. similar to how the last league had walkers, the people who just picked the wrong choice and had to walk around everywhere. We're going to go straight here to Last Recall. Last Recall gives you a Crystal of Memories, which allows players to teleport back to the exact location where they most recently teleported from, excluding instances. So, bringing out the paint here. This is a little confusing for the people who don't know. But basically, imagine that you've got a boss here. And in order to get to the boss, you need to go to a bank. Then in order to go from here, you gotta like go across. It's a pretty big run, but you've got like a teleport that skips you here. You've got a teleport that skips you here. You've got an agility shortcut that skips you here. So eventually you can teleport to here and then agility shortcut to skip you to here. And then, so you've got this much walking and this much walking. So it's less than half. So you feel pretty progressed over time. But you go there, you sit at the boss, you kill that until you run out of stuff, and then you can go teleport back to your TP spot that's pretty close to a bank, and then you go do this thing again, right? With Last Recall, I'll take this blue. You walk over here once, right? You walk over here once. You fight the boss until you're done. Then you teleport back to the bank, right? Go walk over, re-gear your stuff, and then you click on the button. Boop. The Crystal of Memories. And that teleports you right back to where you were standing. Exactly where you were standing in the boss layer. Skipping over all of this content and all of this progression. So you are faster and you totally ignore the entire progression mechanic of unlocking these teleports or little upgrades once, right? And now imagine you replace boss with mining or rune crafting. It was insane. And as we pull this one out of here, I honestly... And yeah, this was the biggest meme of like the has versus the has-nots, right? And Last Recall has been in every single league that has happened since then, which puts me as a strong chance to believe that it will be back. My only thing is that I kind of hope that it isn't back, just to like make things different. Because it's such a must-have, they kind of gave it to everybody. And, right, like, they were able to design stuff around it now, which was awesome, which makes me think that it's probably going to come back. But if this is a little bit less of a 100% chance, and I think it's actually like a 95% chance, because it might be so powerful, it shouldn't be in the next league. Which is weird to think about, because Leagues is about doing things that's like crazy overpowered. Yeah. So, that's Last Recall. And then we look over onto Fairy's Flight, which gives you a mushroom that teleports you to any fairy ring or spirit tree. At the start of this. Everybody got fairy rings unlocked. I guess it doesn't say. Yeah. So but yeah, this was kind of the meme one, right? People understood, the people who took Eternal Jeweler. Fairy's Flight was the one that people were like really making fun of as being the glue eaters. Because being able to teleport to a fairy ring is pretty easy to do. There's a few teleports that are pretty close to a fairy ring, so like you're not saving a whole lot of time. And everybody auto-unlocked fairy rings. So once you were at a fairy ring, you could go to every fairy ring you wanted to, literally from the start, right? You could go. They auto-completed the fairy ring quests and gave you a Draymond staff. So like 10 seconds, I guess probably more than 10 seconds, a minute. The amount of time it takes you to run to a fairy ring from Lumbridge Castle is how long you have to wait in order for you to get that. So wasting a whole relic on this was definitely a bit blasé. So that said, I think that there's some room to improve this one. And you might see that this one looks pretty close. So we're going to put a 60% chance that this teleport, fairy ring related teleport's going to be in the next league. We'll see. And Eternal Jeweler was, again, teleport thing, right, which is great. A way to get around to a bunch of places. This was the early game version of this, because Last Recall doesn't really work until you're doing higher end content and have good access to like teleports that are really close to a bank. When you first unlock this, tier 2, which for my example, for the tier 2 relic, you can get this in like an hour. Right. When you first start, if you're like really pushing for it, but you can definitely expect to have this by the, 3 hours in. If you have no idea what you're doing, you can definitely get a tier 2 relic pretty quickly. And this gives you almost every single teleport it gives you a ton of teleports, like right off of the rip. This skips you to almost level 85 construction for teleports right off of the rip, because you get an eternal ring of dueling, ring of returning, ring of wealth, games necklace, skills necklace, necklace of passage, that all combined into exactly one item. You get a necklace that has all of the teleports onto here. And then in the future, the teleports you get from clue scrolls don't get used. The Slayer Ring teleports, Amulet of Glory, Dig Site Pendant, and Combat Bracelets, once you make those, no longer consume charges. So just unlimited Amulet of Glory, unlimited Dig Site Pendants. You just make one, you have unlimited. Very, very front-loaded, and gives you a ton of great teleports right off of the rip. And I think one of the more balanced ones. So I would say that there's definitely an 80% chance, more of a 90% chance. I honestly believe that it's gonna be there. In some form of, a pretty early on thing that gives you a ton of teleports. Because that seems to be a thing, right? We've got pretty early game production, right? You notice none of these are combat related, because combat's kind of a later game thing anyways. And we get to tier 3. Hey, look. Combat. Quick shot, fluid strikes, double cast. The attack speed of all ranged weapons are halved, rounded up. Doubles your attack speed, rounded up. The attack speed of your melee weapons are halved, rounded up. The attack speed of all your magic weapons are halved, rounded up. These all kind of do the same thing. It's just, ranged stabbing magic. And then 100% increased accuracy, 10% more damage for the ranged one, 25% accuracy, no damage from the melee, and the magic is 60% accuracy. 120% accuracy. 120 increased accuracy, and you saved 90% of your runes, you saved 90% of your ammunition, which there was a whole relic. Double cast, got my vote. Hell yeah. So there's save 85% of your ammunition. This one it didn't work for both, right? You had to choose between ranged or magic, but you saved 90% of your runes. And 90% item charges from powered staves. And that's multiplicative 90%, right? Because if you don't use a 90, right? If you don't use, right? If you don't consume a charge on one attack, on the next attack, you still have a 90% chance to not consume that charge. So this actually is like a 99% effective increase. Like, it's so big. So yeah, your 10 nature runes last you for quite a while in the early game. But the fluid strikes, 15% less damage from non-lethal sources. You notice how they had to put that whole point into the code, where if it was going to deal as much damage as as the amount of hit points that you have, it doesn't proc. And this is also where they put the 4x hit points regeneration from here, right? So our fluid strikes got the lesser little bit, like the bacon from the cheeseburger of this one, and it got the 15% less damage from this, and you had to pick melee instead of that, so you became a tank. So I'm gonna make a bit of a strange call here, and I'm actually gonna put these at 80 because a reasonable person would definitely believe that these three are going to be coming back for this current league, right? From what we have known, from the little information we have gotten about what the next league is going to be. There is going to be one tier of relics that are dedicated to combat, and then the rest of the combat enhancements are going to be put into this combat tree that we don't know anything about other than it's there. And it would be very reasonable to assume that the one tier of combat relics are going to be choose your style, because this is very, very it's a very well regarded. People really like this choice. People really like focusing themselves down, because this is one of the big things, right? This is a huge damage increase. Doubling your attack speed and doubling your accuracy means that you can just kill shit with the off style that they're strong against. It doesn't matter. I'm dealing twice. I'm dealing 4 times damage, right? I've doubled my chance to hit, so I don't care that you're strong against ranged attacks. I'm going to hit you because I have twice as much accuracy than I should, and I'm also shooting twice as fast. Like, 4 times something they take half damage from is still 2 times what they're used to be taking as far as main game damage, so you still blast it. And then you go against something that is weak to that, and you just melt it. Right? You go up to something with double casting your spells twice as fast, and they're weak to magic. You just absolutely rip it. I agree. It's crazy good. The reason why I'm making a light bit of call that I don't think there's a 100% chance is that they want to change up combat, and it has been stated in developer interviews about this league, right, as they're trying to not give specifics and talk a little precociously, that they want to change up a little bit of how combat works and to make it so that people do more varied styles of play, aka I think they want people to have and bring more swaps rather than just hard forcing their main combat style, which makes me think that I don't think they're going to have a locking relic system to try to incentivize people. Because the other thing too is that, again, if you pick fluid strikes because you're I like stabbing things, and you go against the boss that's really strong against being stabbed. No worry. It's all good. The person who's really strong against being stabbed and you should be casting against him in the main game. People will still stab the crap out of him, even though it's the same speed as shooting him with spells, because they're just I don't care, I'm a warrior. And that led to some people being oh, Leagues is so slow, I can't do this content. When it's just use the spells, train that other thing. You're going to get plenty of combat training stabbing things as your warrior build, but okay. So I could see this being the way that they really are breaking form, which is why I'm not putting it at 100. This is, again, realistically another one of those 90%ers. But yeah. And also notice that there isn't the you do this if you like skilling, or versus you do this if you like stabbing. This whole thing was you choose your thing, but you don't have to feel bad about picking the combat relic while other people are well, I just pick the better one that gives me 8 times herbs or whatever, right? All right. And Tier 4, here's the return of the mega ones. This one is a crazy big. This one was the biggest split, I think, in the league. Right? Everybody was oh, what areas, what do you do? What combat style are you going to do? But this was the huge split, because Treasure Seeker and Unnatural Selection were both mega hyped, and there were a ton of people who were jealous that they didn't pick these relics. So now when they put them both in the same tier, and there's only 2 instead of 3, because they wanted to do a second inventory, but they couldn't get it to work. It just needed to be removed. There were too many bugs for item duplication stuff. Yep. So, which is funny too, because this is actually nerfed. It's 1 in 20 chance of dropping from NPCs, not 1 in 10. 10x more geodes, and clues are stackable, and they all have the lowest tier reward. So, but realistically unchanged, right? You still get a bajillion medium clues, and also you have more of the map unlocked, so you can go fight the shit that drops a crap ton of medium clues. And so we're going to throw Treasure Seeker in the exact same tier that we put the other Treasure Seeker relic. I wonder if that's going to be And unnatural selection. Players can choose which Slayer assignment they would like to receive, which is good. In this Trailblazer, you weren't like restricted to the Slayer Masters. All the Slayer Masters had the same. Thank you. All the Slayer Masters had the same list, so every Slayer Master was just the same, right? Especially since they didn't have Konar. So, right, the going to Neve versus going to Duradel was the exact same Slayer list. But yeah, getting to choose it, and to sweeten the pot, instead of getting the farming contracts, because there's no farming contracts in this league, they added superior Slayer monsters have a 1 in 25 chance of appearing and will always drop a clue scroll if they are able to drop one. So you still get some clues here. And in addition, they roll their standard variant drop table 6 times instead of 3. But this does not increase the amount of rolls in the superior table. Yeah, and we're going to throw unnatural selection right next to the other unnatural selection for the exact same reasons. I do think that the superior Slayer monsters dropping more clues and having a 1 in 25% chance of appearing instead of like a 1 in 100 or whatever, that probably bumps it up just a little bit, right? To like a 50% chance. Right, like I think the other half of this is a lot more likely to come by for the exact same reasons that I don't think they're going to want to do players pick their own task, because I think it actually removes a lot from Slayer. But oh yes, and we will see here that you start off passive effect from tier 0. They added this. Everybody has run energy, will never drain from running. There are no walkers in the league. Everybody starts off with permanent 100% run energy. Your run never drains, which means you can wear whatever you want. Graceful doesn't do anything. You can load yourself up with a bajillion kilos of gear. Your run never degrades. You didn't get them? Aw, yeah. Well, I hope you had fun. The tier 2 passive relic increased the 5x multiplier of XP to 8x. So we can already see how they like took a whole tier of relics and just gave that to everybody, because, right, like, you know, it's not 10x for some of them, it's 8x for all of them. You're still getting a ton of XP. Absolutely blasting it. 4.5 mil from the split. Oh, you did a split. Interesting. Okay. Heck yeah. Tier 3 relics. And this is item source. Items from some sources will be twice as common. As soon as you get your melee, as soon as you start dealing damage. This is a ton of things, but basically everything that's on a rare drop table hides for free for all. Sure. But you got 4 mil from the split on a wand? I guess it's like 40 mil, right? Sure. 6 people? Huh, cool. Heck yeah. 27. Yeah, I figured it's going down. It doesn't have any uses. Doesn't have any uses yet. It'll definitely be a speculation one for the future. Yeah, item sources twice as common. So this is stuff like the Briofita essence or Obor's staff, or the biggest thing was that clue scroll uniques got multiplied by 2 here, which is good for progress and getting like your god dehide twice as quick when you're doing clues. If your a ranged account was pretty good. Yeah. And coming into here, League XP multiplier from 8 times to 12 times XP on all your skills as soon as you pop this. So you're just still blasting through stuff, even though the the amount of XP you need in order to do like getting 4 times bonus XP on top of having more training methods, you're still blasting through levels. Very fun. Very fun. And it's tier 5. Passive effects. 3 times drop rate on those items instead of 2 times. So you're getting even more common, rare items. You know, stuff like the Basilisk Jaw from Basilisk Knights, right? Like, yeah, there's a ton of stuff, but basically all of the like cool rare drops that aren't like rare drop table stuff. And this is an interesting one. So, Botanist. Farming ticks occur every minute instead of 5. We've seen that before. Resources harmed from farming are multiplied by 2. But you don't get 2x experience. You just get 2x herbs. Basically herbs, right? Like, ooh, I get 2x corn. Whatever. It's herbs. Creating potions will give their 4 give you 4 doses instead of 3, so plus 33% doses per potion, and you have a 95% chance of saving your secondary ingredient. So you need like 30 secondary ingredients to make like 300 potions. And stats boosted above the player's base level do not drain over time. That's the kicker. People did not understand when this came out how absolutely pants on head bananas this was. You didn't drain, which means that you just drunk a super strength potion and you just had it forever until you died or you got your stats drained. So you could like go to a raid and pre-pot a raid and just whatever. I don't need stat boosting potions for the entire raid. Who cares? Which is the biggest thing with this, because that meant that this relic affected combat, whereas Infernal Gathering and Equilibrium did not enhance your combat ability. Yeah. Which made this so much stronger. Yeah, and that's not coming back. 0%. 0% that's coming back. It's because it did not come back in either of the other 2 leagues. But as far as the farming ticks are faster and extra resources creating potions being, I think that this is maybe a little niche, which is why they added on the stat boosting stuff, because this is really just farming and herb lore are free, right? But otherwise, I would say there's like a 40% chance of this coming back. But that might be hoping. There's probably a 60% chance of there being like a farming and herb lore thing, because for making an iron account, herb lore is a huge gate, right? Having some sort of farming herb lore helper is definitely is a big thing for helping make an Iron Man progress be a lot smoother and feel a lot better as a player. And I personally would love the farming tick thing to be the way they fix it, but we'll see. Infernal Gathering. You are given a set of Trailblazer tools that act as undegradable versions of... Well, they say it's crystal tools, but it's actually the... It's the infernal tool. It's the scorching tools or whatever. Infernal tools, right? The infernal axe. So you get an axe that auto chops the logs that you chop with it. Right, you get an axe that auto fire makes the logs that you chop. You get a pickaxe that auto smelts the ores that you mine, granting you smithing levels, and a harpoon that auto cooks any fish you harpoon with them. Right. And they are the same strength as crystal tools, which are better than dragon tools. They roll like 1 tick quicker or something like that, or have like a higher they're better than dragon, and also auto do your thing. So now all of your wood cutting, mining, and right, like you super progress all of these skills. Biggest thing that comes to mind is that this is amazing for the people who picked Endless Harvest, who are getting 2 times the amount of these resources, and they're being sent to the bank. As opposed to the production people who auto cook all of their food in 1 tick and who auto smelt all of their ores in 1 tick. This is definitely nice for those people who do have that, because, right, for smelting ores, you still need the coal, where this totally skips coal, right? You just go up to an adamantite rock, you mine it, you get an adamantite bar in your inventory. You don't need any coal. Insane. And fire making experience, they don't auto light all of their fires in 1 tick. They do have to light their fires 1 fire at a time. And there's no winter Todd in this league. So you've got to light fires on the ground to 99. So getting a help on that is definitely nice for people who want to max. And you get crystal tools, which are very real. Like, they're like getting a dragon axe on an iron is like kind of tough. So just getting a crystal tool, which is better for free, is also like just nice. For like, I just want to chop like this. This does significantly increase your woodcutting experience just from it being the best axe in the game. Yeah. And because of that, I honestly do believe that, and you can see here that it did come back. I do think that this is going to come back in some way. I think that it's really well designed. Yeah. So I want to see it back, and I really do believe that it's going to come back as one of the choices that you can make. Yeah, because then when you have the gaining more from the Endless Harvest, and you combo it with this, then you are mining twice as many ores. They are auto smelted into bars and auto deposited into your bank. Right, so you're just slamming the crap out of sharks. They're being auto deposited from your things. They are auto cooked as well. You don't burn any one of those. Like, so 100% of the fish you catch are cooked. None are burned. Right, you just get so much food for that. Very nice. And equilibrium. Every time a player gains experience, they gain an additional experience equal to 10% of that player's total level. This experience is not multiplied by the league's XP multiplier, which would be 12x. So if you're at total level 1800, right, every single time that you gain any experience doing anything, right, you chop a log, you gain your 12 times log chopping experience, and then you also get 10%, right, your 1800, so 180 wood cutting experience, right, because it's the same experience that you just got, and there's a little bit, and there's no cap. If you choose production master, each item processed will trigger this effect. So it gives you more XP in like smaller doses, and then there's an interesting thing where you want to be doing more things that give you a lot of smaller doses of experience instead of like one large dose of experience, like wines, for example, or like, right, chopping oak logs might be better experience than chopping willow logs, because you just get more ticks of experience on oaks. Very complicated, not very sexy, and doesn't like change the game. So it was very much the least popular thing by far. And it came back, which makes me think that it's likely to come back. But I'm thinking at this point it's like a 60% chance to come back. We'll see how they tried to workshop it. I still don't think that that is the way that it wants to go, but I think that there's something there. Because, right, it's not been picked twice in a row, and I think they're just going to keep buffing it until people pick it. But they could remove it. We'll see. And tier 6 relics. This is the last reward, so you got 6 tiers on the second go around instead of 2 tiers on the first. Thank you for the head pats. In this one, you got 12 times experience to 16 times experience. Draining strikes. So yeah, cap off your stuff. 16 times experience rate. Absolutely crazy. That's some like mega private server level stuff. So much experience. Oh, and we got a jump scare coming real quick, actually. I'm gonna go get me some nommers. So I'm gonna mute my mic so that I don't crunch and crinkle this wrapper in your face, in your ears. Yeah. I remember having a ton of fun on Valentine's Day when we made food together and I made the shrimp tacos with you. I definitely need to do some more of that soon. I just don't have a way to read chat while I'm cooking. And it is significantly farther away now in my new setup. So I just need to get myself like a laptop or a cheap tablet. I can't Twitch mobile app. My phone's my camera. But how are we liking the league's education? Yeah, it'll happen eventually for sure. Heck yeah. I'm glad to be so lovely, appreciated, and adored on this GF Friday. Okay. I have some nommers. I'm going to take like 2 more bites. And then we'll get back. Very cozy, for sure. Yeah. Kitty cat wants a bite too? Nah. Oh boy, okay. Kitty, say hello to the good boys. Okay. So, draining strikes. You will see that on this tier, all of these are combat related, which is cool. Right? You're like you can see the design of this this tier of relics. You got all of your skilling stuff, right? You've got farming on herb lore. You've got wood cutting and fire making and smithing and cooking and fishing. And then this one just gives you some cool ways to do some stuff. And just slam out a bunch of right, slam out XP, make things better, do cool things, and then you unlock your final relic, and now you have your last increase in damage, so now you can go hit on endgame bosses, go get cool endgame gear, and use the spoils in order to cap off that final XP reward and, get a bunch of experience and stuff like that. So, and they kind of did it. They just really fucked up by making this include combat. Right? And this is kind of combat to a degree, right? Slayer is kind of a skill, kind of combat. Treasure Seeker is also tied in with Slayer. But, yeah, there will be a recurring thing where, they'll accidentally sneak a combat into a skilling tier and it breaks the whole thing. Because not enough people picked Infernal Gathering because the botanist was just too good. But yeah, 10% increased accuracy and damage, which is interesting because this is your increase of damage when we go up to the combat ones. The ranged one dealt increased damage, but you didn't get any increased damage from the melee, and you didn't get any increased damage from the mage. So this was actually the first way to get just a flat increase of damage from a relic, other than ranged, which was a significant contribution to ranged being the most popularly picked one here. Right, it was pretty tied in between ranged and fluid strikes. And part of that is because people like melee more than they like ranged, just in general. But definitely the higher end communities, the communities that talked the most on Reddit, the loud communities, were all about quick shot because all the other ones were whatever, that's just increased accuracy. This is the only thing that gives you increased damage. This is the most efficient, right? Having your attack speed, so you get a 2-tick blowpipe. Yeah, the attack speed are halved rounded up. So it's actually halved rounded down. 3 ticks goes to 1.5, goes to 2. So rounded down, not rounded up. I remembered. Yeah, so. And so this also was a big damage increase on top of a little bit of extra accuracy. You didn't really need it, but the damage increase was huge. So coming in, draining strikes Any successful hit will have a 50% chance of restoring your hit points and prayer by 10% of the damage that's dealt. Congratulations, you never have to drink a prayer potion ever again. Oh, and you get some lifesteal too. The relic doesn't work with multi-target attacks such as bursts. It will work with the Scythe of Vidor's initial hit. Yeah, and so it kind of works with the Scythe if you're attacking this one large thing, but it doesn't work against AoE. This one was huge, and I 100% expect this to come back in some way. Right? Some form of like lifesteal. The prayer steal is so good. As long as you're attacking, you don't reduce prayer, like, especially considering it, you are getting prayer back that is tied to the amount of damage you do, and the things that reduce your prayer usually increase your damage. Like, so there's a 100% tie to, like, I don't care how many prayers I have on, as long as they're making my damage go up, I'm just going to leave them on, because I'm just going to heal it back. Right, basically 50%, 5%, so 5% of your damage is being restored to you. You have like a 5% life and prayer steal. Crazy good. And I expect this to come back probably. I mean, like, I do not expect this to be a relic, but this is going to come back. This is going to be one of the choices in the combat tree that we know of, that we know is going to be a thing that we don't know about. And we're officially on our second tier of 100%, but a few of these are repeats. Exploding attacks. All attacks. Any successful hit to the primary target will hit to 5 additional targets, dealing the same damage as the primary target. You do AoE. Ugh. So, biggest thing is that this only works in multi-combat areas, and there are actually fewer multi-combat areas than you think there are. I expect this to kind of come back, but not really. This is a really cool idea, but the game just isn't designed around it, because the AoE attacks are so powerful that there's entire portions of the game that just can't have any multi-combat in there, because like it would just be too much to put a cannon here, right? Like, or that's a way that they make a place that's like really good but has absolutely 0 drops, because you can multi-combat and there's a bunch of stuff here. So and then you get your bonus damage, but this is pretty lackluster. I could see this returning in some way, but as we've seen in the past, this was added as like the teeniest little bit of bacon on another Relic's cheeseburger, and it still kind of came up, right? Every single time you came up, you're like, oh yeah, it does that too, hell yeah. But you definitely weren't choosing it, so I do not expect this to be coming back in any meaningful way or form. However, on the other side, Weapon Specialist, the player's special attack energy restores at 30% instead of 10%. 3 times spec regeneration. This was before the light bearer came out, so this was the only way to increase your spec. However, the special attacks that cost more than 20% energy will only cost 20%. So even a Dragon Dagger, which costs 25% of your energy, now costs 20%. So you get 5 Dragon Dagger specs instead of 4. But you take anything that has like 100% draining your prayer, like the Bandos Godsword, or the Armadale Crossbow, doesn't matter. 20%. You get 5 of those. Even like the Saradomin God Sword that takes 50%, getting 5 of those instead of 2, and then getting 3 times as many of those 5 instead of 2 on specs is absolutely crazy. You do so many wild things. There's so many cool builds that come from this. Yeah. Because there's so many weird spec weapons, right? Because like the Dragon Dagger just does a bunch of damage, right? Like it doesn't have a very high amount of damage, but for 25%, you do 2 hit splats. So you're like doubling your stuff, yeah. And you just like absolutely slam it down. 5. And then you've got some things like the Saradomin God Sword that restores your health and prayer by 50% of what you hit. So getting 5 of those instead of 2 gives you this if you have a Saradomin God Sword. Right? You just swap to this and you just chop, 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 chop. Right? Or, yeah, this wasn't relevant during that league, but like the Dragon Warhammer that reduces the enemy's defense by like what it hits. Or like, no, if it hits, it just like reduces their defenses by a percentage amount. So just getting to like bonk and just like go up to a boss and just like spec, you know, reduce your defenses by almost half. And then swap to like another special weapon and then just like bonk it, right? Like you can do more than one thing. They just consume spec. You can swap to a different weapon, right? Like you just start slamming them with all of these wild things. Yeah, so there's like utility specs, there's damage specs, there's a bunch of crazy specs. Yeah, so there's a lot that comes with this, and this was definitely underappreciated, right? Because it takes a little bit to finagle. It's like really fancy. Not a whole lot of people are really enamored with spec weapons. When you have lifesteal, which everybody loves, getting to click the game less, eat less food, will do it. And honestly, that's probably going to be what I pick. But Weapon Specialist 100% is coming back in some way or fashion. It's definitely going to be a marquee part of the combat tree that you're progressing towards, because it's super cool, it's super thematic, it's like, you know, it doesn't like, it changes up things, it's not like terribly crazy. And also we know that there's going to be some wild weapons in this league that are going to do crazy effects that are supposed to be like, so they're supposed to be like a little bit worse than the mega rare stuff, like the Scythe of Vidor or the Twisted Bow, but they're not just stat sticks, which makes me think that a lot of them are going to have amazing specs. So getting a way to do more of these special attacks that would be broken in the main game is going to be a marquee part of a lot of people's builds. And that is Leagues 2, the Trailblazer League. This Trailblazer League was tremendously successful, and when it came out, it was the peak amount of players that have ever been logged in at the game at that point in time. It broke new records of the amount of people concurrently logged in. Noticing a trend? And I'm going to quickly cover the next league because it's not super fair to put it on this tier list. Shattered Relics League. So, I'm going to go over this league, and we're not going to go over the relics, because this league was the not choices league. Shattered Relics. So, this one was different. So, instead of starting off in Lumbridge, Yeah, instead of starting off in Lumbridge, everybody started in Catherby after a really interesting cinematic that was talking about this like sage who was unlocking these relics to attain knowledge and washed up. And you walk over. It was really interesting. Um, but uh, so instead of unlocking areas, you had to unlock skills, bosses, and you could autocomplete quests. So every single task that you completed gave you points that unlocked tiers of how many relic fragments you could equip at once. So like, you started off, you could equip one relic fragment, and then as you got enough points, you could equip 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then all the way up to 7 relic fragment tiers. And then every single time you completed a task, you got Sage's Renown points that you could use to unlock skills. You started off with like 2 or 3 skills. I think 3. I think you started off with hit points. You chose a combat skill to unlock, and then you got to choose between like fishing or woodcutting. I think everybody got fishing or something like that. But so you didn't unlock the ability to use those skills. You unlocked the ability to get experience in those skills. Which meant that when you came in with a giant boost to your experience rate, right, 5 times experience rate boost, and you walked over and you farmed and you fished up a bunch of shrimps because that's the one skill that you've unlocked, is fishing, and then you go cook the shrimps, you don't gain any cooking XP. So then you're like, oh my god, how do I unlock gaining cooking XP? Because that's the whole fucking point of the league, is to get a shitload of XP. So I gotta go do a bunch of tasks in order to like getting experience in cooking, right? So I go around, kill things, rub fish on a tree, catch stuff. I got a bunch of stuff, right? And as you are doing things, you get these relic fragments that go into this thing. This interface. And you have this whole list. This whole fragment tier list that you also level up by equipping and getting experience in. So like this arcane conduit, you start with a 40% chance to save all of your ammo, all of your runes. And then as you use it more, it levels up into a 60% chance and then a 90% chance. And we're just going to scroll through all of the relic fragments that just do that. Or players have a 50% chance of receiving extra food, cooked food while cooking. You don't get any extra experience though. Or you got a 4 times chance of receiving bird's nest. When So tiny little effects that you're equipping, right? There's 53 of them that do a small thing, and you get like 5, 7 of them. And then when you equip enough of them together, you also get set effects. There are these many set effects that also, you can see that there's Knives Edge 2, which gives you something. And then if you have 3 of them, you get Knives Edge 3. So it makes it even better. So you could even get just a Knives Edge 2 or Knives Edge 3. So all of these came together. So you ended up having like 15 fucking things in your like relics inventory. which meant, and you were swapping them in and out in between things because they weren't locked, right? Because they just did a tiny little thing. You would never choose to just have, like more clue nests or whatever, right? But like, oh, I'm going wood cutting, so I'm going to throw that on. I'm going to throw that on. I'm going to throw that on. And eventually you would get these like real things of, right, you can process your whole inventory at once. You can, alchemist when cooking food, making jugs of wine, cleaning herbs, mixing potions. All of the players will be processed all at once, right? Make all of your potions at once. Absolute unit. Hey, look, 50% less damage. And 100% of that damage is reflected back to the attacker. That was insane. You just stood in the boss and ate food. Because I promise that the amount of damage that a boss does to you is higher than the amount of damage that you do a boss if you're fucking up every single mechanic. So you're like, cool, I'm just going to bring food. But yeah, there were some cool effects. But because you had all of these set effects, very granular, and 7 fucking of these things to go in between every single time you go from one piece of content to the other, right? You go mine a bunch of stuff. You go do an hour of mining, and then you go back to the bank, and you're like, okay, I'm going to go smith all of these stuff, because I just had a bunch of shit get sent to the bank, so now I'm going to go smith them. So now I got to go take off half of these and put in another half of these, and then check, and like, oh, I didn't get this one, so I got to go take 2 off, and then go take 1 on, and you ended up sitting in the bank for like 10 fucking minutes. Every single time you went to do literally anything else, just checking to make sure that you got everything done all the way. Because the previous 2 leagues, you had the memes of the walkers, the people who got made fun of because they chose the fairy flight relic, the people who were like, I didn't know that last recall was insane and I felt bad, or oh, I picked that one, I picked the ranged relic because Reddit said it was amazing, but I really like stabbing things, so I really wish I could have done that. Like, all of that. So they saw that and was like, okay, cool. We're just going to do all of this, and the entire map is open to you. You just can't get experience until you do a bunch of stuff. And then eventually, all of the Sage's Renown that you've done, that you've earned, that has unlocked everything, is just going to while away. Because you've unlocked all of your skills, and you've done all of the bosses that you want to do. But in between how much decision you had for putting all of these like relics and stuff together, on top of the amount of decision paralysis you had from just regularly like opening up the entire game, because you could go anywhere in the game. You could go to Zaya, you could go to Lumbridge, you could go to the desert, you could fight every single boss with these amazing relics. You're like, oh my god, which raid do I do? Should I do Giant Mole? Should I do Volcano, right? Like, there's so much stuff. It was wild. The biggest benefit to this system was that you could unlock quests with Sage's Renown points. So those points that you would use, you're like, I don't think I'm going to unlock King Black Dragon, but I would like to pay 5 Sage's Renown points to not have to do Monkey Madness 2. So I just pay the Sage's Renown points that I got from doing tasks, and then hey, Monkey Madness 2 has been auto-completed. I don't get the experience from completing the quest, but I can get the content that is locked behind it. I can go fight the things, I can go claim the items or whatever, I can go do this stuff. And that was really cool as a way to like, you can accelerate your course and not have to do these quests by instead doing tasks, which are a big part of the game. And tasks are kind of anything and everything. There's a bunch of random tasks that you do, but the minute-to-minute gameplay of Leagues is find a task, do a task, do task, task, task. Everything is task related. So getting to incorporate quests into that task list was brilliant and something I really think that they're going to come back with this year. But because have a good night, Brayden. Because all of these relics were not single pick, 0% of them are going to come back for Leagues 4. Oh, we didn't rank a bunch of XP. That's a 0%. Yeah, good night. But yeah, so just touching on that, this was very different, and this league did have a lot of people coming in, but this league had the most amount of people like quitting it early. This really didn't reflect well with players. They were really stuck on the decision paralysis and really didn't like unlocking the ability to get XP, which makes sense. I really didn't like it either. So, they come back. Leagues 4, Trailblazer Reloaded. Trailblazer was incredibly successful. The most amount of players we've ever had concurrently. Let's just run it back. So they literally just did that. They said, that worked before, let's just do it again. The other thing is that Shattered Relics Leagues. So the first, 2019, late 2019, early 2020 was the first Leagues. Right? October 2020 was the second league. The third league, November 2021. August 2023. Right, there was 3 years. Trailblazer 4 was when I started streaming. One of the first things I streamed was this league as a PNG tuber. Development began. Yeah, it released on November. I streamed this a while ago. I remember JDev was very confused. So they just ran it back, but they let you go to core end again. And there was 3 years, there was 4 years of active game development that really changed how people, reacted. Yeah, get some sleepies. 4 years of development really changed the context of the decisions that people made that put them into the places and the So for example, Mauritania was really popular because the Theater of Blood was the highest level of content, but the desert was mega popular because the Tombs of Amascut was the most recently released large piece of content, and it was the easiest raid. It's the most popular raid that has ever been made because it's the easiest. And so everybody was going to go desert because they wanted to farm the shit out of that, and they wanted the Tumican Shadow, so everybody was going to be doing magic anyways because they want the mega rare from their favorite piece of content. They're going to be raiding a shit, they're going to want to do that cool raid, do a bunch of stuff. And so they were going to build their entire journey around getting that one cool item, that one mega rare item from the raid, and then be a little bit pissed off and burnt out how they have to really rush that one mega rare item and can't do anything until they get that one mega rare item. But yes, desert was mega popular because of that. So there was a good reason to just run it back because, again, there's been 4 years of active development in the game. There's just a bunch of extra stuff. The way you would approach the same problem just with different inputs is going to change. And as we go into the other stuff, we start off items from, yeah, boosted drop rate. So they start, and then they'll go up with stuff, right? So like Obor's Club will, over the course of the league, turn into eventually a 1 in 23 once you hit the 5x drop rate multiplier, right? Gout Tuber, Tazar, Draconic Visage, Dragon Boots, right? Like a bunch of stuff, but basically all of the cool drops from everything. Venator Shard, Dragon Axe, Virtus Robe from Duke, Basilisk Jaw from the Knights, Kandrin, the Kraken Tentacle, Oculus Necklace, right? Yeah, Tombs of a Masket Purple, 1 in 10. Temporos, Tomb of Water, goes all the way up to a 1 out of 320. Yeah. Barrows Armor's Piece goes to a 1 in 69. And that's from here, so it's like every other Barrows chest. It's like it's like 0.75 Barrows items per chest. It was crazy. Yeah. Right. Leaf Bladed Sword is not like that big of a thing, but it turns into a 1 in 76. Yeah. Pyromancer outfit, 1 out of 30. Right, like crazy big. All of the cool things starting off as twice as common. You start with unlimited run, no walkers, and all clue scrolls are stackable. You no longer need to pick the Treasure Seeker relic in order to start getting stackable clues. That's the only reason everybody wanted that, was just stack up a fuckload of clues. And you only receive clue scroll steps in the region that you have unlocked. That was added on later into Trailblazer. It did not start that way, and a bunch of people whined. So they changed it. All right. So going in, Endless Harvest. Where have we seen this before? Resources gathered from fishing, woodcutting, mining are doubled. Experiences also given for the extra resource. And they are sent to the bank. Endless Harvest. It's back again. And this time, you even get experience. Mega good. 100% gonna come back. Production Prodigy. Here's an interesting one. Crafting, smithing, herb lore, fletching, and cooking are all boosted by plus 12. That's our plus 12 boost to all skills. Oh, that was this one. Yes. This is our Skilling Prodigy, plus 12 boost. Not to all non-combat skills, but just to your production skills. So you can cook at 12 levels higher. You can craft at 12 levels higher, which was huge. Huge. And you auto-process your whole inventory with stuff. And just to put some more bacon on the cheeseburger, because not enough people picked this last time, there's a 25% chance that you make an extra product, set to the bank, and you gain XP. So you take an inventory of shrimps, you go over, you cook them all in one tick over at that range, and then you also just get like 7 extra shrimp sent to your bank, and you also get experience for all 7 of them. All like 5x experience. Yeah, where's the XP rate? Oh, yeah. You start at 5 times XP. So all 5 times XP of that entire inventory of shrimps, plus like 25% more. Crazy good. 100% coming back. Because, we've seen this happen quite a few times. It's come back again and again and again. We're going to see it. I would be very surprised if we didn't see it. I think they might scale back either the boost or the extra items being sent to the bank, because this did end up being maybe a little bit too much, but I don't know. All 3 of these first tier ones were very well balanced. So I could see them just sending back all 3 of these as is. Maybe pushing up Endless Harvest a little bit. It was a little bit underpicked, but we'll see. And lastly, the Trickster. This one does a ton. So, you are given these boots, which gives you 2/3 of the player's agility level as experience while running roughly every 10 ticks. So basically, if you're running, which everybody has unlimited run, you just get agility experience for free. It's crazy because agility is a pain in the ass of the leagues. Because why would you train agility? Everybody has unlimited run. Who gives a shit? It's just for shortcuts, and we unlock OP as shit teleporting methods. Like who cares about agility? This means that you don't have to care about agility. Continue not caring about agility. Who cares? Agility blows. Don't train it. Just leave the boots on forever. You will get agility literally for free. All you gotta do is wear these fly-ass red shoes. All right. Players will always succeed in performing actions for thieving, agility, hunter, and firemaking. Oh, and you can also just train agility while you're doing this and just absolutely mega stack your agility. Way overpower, way quickly. Nobody did this. But you never fail a thieving action. No, any single time you click somebody to pick their pockets, they don't bonk you on the head, say stop thieving me. You never fail a thieving action. You never fail a hunting action. You always light a fire on the first flick of the match against the fire. You're never sitting there trying to light a fire. It just auto happens every time. Right? And these kind of seem like pretty whatever skills, and they kind of are, right? You can see that this is like fishing, woodcutting, mining, crafting, smithing, herbal, fletching, cooking, and the other non-combat skills are thieving, agility, hunter, fire making. So this is kind of like picking up the strands of these two, because like fire making's kind of like a production artisan skill. Thieving and hunter are kind of like gathering skills, but not really. But yeah, you gain 3 times the maximum amount of coin pouches. So instead of starting out at 28, you start out at 56, right? 54? I think it's 54. No, 60, 2, 3, 60, 74. Like, so crazy. No. 28 times 3, 6, 74. You get 74 coin pouches before you have to click your coin pouch. And players will automatically re-pickpocket an MTC until they can no longer do so, aka until you have the maximum amount of coin pouches allowed, or until you log out. One click and you leave your hands in that guard's pocket until the game literally forces you to stop. One click, full AFK. And you keep following them around. Even while they're walking around, your hand is just glued to their ass and they can't stop you. You had people picked Trickster Relic and just got 99 thieving in like 20 hours. Yeah. And pickpocketed loot is doubled and converted into banknotes. That stacks with the rogue's outfit for quadruple loot. So you go to anything that doesn't give you coin pouches, and you could legit one click walk away from your computer for 15 minutes of literal AFK, go take a shower, and then come back and you will have lost 0 experience. And you even get some experience, some agility experience from your character running around keeping up, pickpocketing them. Box traps for hunter lure creatures faster. They literally are magnets to Chinchampas. You just set up a box and they just come running at the box. Impling jars never break. And, players burn 3x3. Players burn 3x3s of logs. So this did a ton of just enough random stuff in order to be like, wow, that's really interesting, right? Because imagine you train fire making 9 times faster. 3x3 is crazy. Yeah, you had people making lines of 3x3 logs. You would just see like, why the hell is there a 3x3 of ashes on the ground in this random area? I guess a trickster was here. Like, yeah, the lines of tricksters making fires outside of like the oak log spot was crazy. Because they also would just auto rip it. You never fail a fire making action. So they just go walk over, bend over, 3x3 of fires. Like it was so funny. So I didn't pick trickster and I regret it. But that said, I'm not going to put that at 100%. I think that it's... So the reason why is that I don't know if they are comfortable throwing back the exact same tier 1 as in between Leagues 4 and Leagues 5. And I think that they might change some of the aspects of Trickster. Like, kind of for the sake of changing it, because, trickery. If the result of bending over is massive conflagration, please see a doctor. Yeah, so I don't know if they're going to be comfortable just sending back the same 3, but if they are going to send back just one tier rawly unchanged or very slightly unchanged, it would be Leagues 4 tier 1, because all 3 of these were amazing. Right? Production Prodigy was definitely the most powerful one, because I cannot tell you how big a plus 12 crafting boost to an iron account is. That's so much. Because think of it like this. It's a logarithmic increase in the amount of XP you need in order to get an unlock, right? By a 7 level scale. So in order to gain 7 levels, you need to double your total XP. Plus 12 is more than 7. It's almost 7.5. So you're just constantly walking around with an effective 1.35x XP of your current XP in crafting, smithing, herb lore, cooking, fletching. Which also increases, right, your smithing, herb lore, fletching, cooking. It increases the amount of XP because as you level up, you get access to higher XP training methods. But you're doing that at like minus 80% of the XP threshold. So it absolutely massively increases the amount of XP per time that you can get just by like this gating method that you skip. On top of it just being good, right? Like if you just removed this would still be good. So I could see them taking like the plus 6, taking this boost and moving it to like, I don't know. I mean, if they wanted to go really crazy, they just throw a plus 12 boost on Endless Harvest for like all the harvesting things. Like, yeah, fuck. Like, I don't know. But yeah, plus 12 crafting was also crazy. Getting to craft level 99 required crafting things as an iron account at level, right, 90 at level 87. Right, the amount of XP difference between a level... Right, you get to level 87 crafting and you can craft level 99 required Zenite is so much less crafting. Yeah. Whew. All right. Tier 2, 500 points. Leagues XP multiplier from 5x to 8x. Quite nice. And minigame points minigame points are boosted by 3 times. You get 3 times minigame points. So this is Mage Training Arena. This is Pest Control. This is Barbarian Assault points. This is, I mean, right, anything that has the red thing, the red star. The biggest thing is that this is not Wintertodt reward chests. This isn't Temporos reward permits. And this is not Guardians of the Rift reward searches. Which caught people a bit off guard. But 3 times Mage Training Arena points is wild, and it gets even harder. There's a lot of talk about this being a feature in this league, and I'm not 100% sold. I really do feel like, because this was the only thing that was the change between Trailblazer 1 and Trailblazer Electric Boogaloo, was the minigame point changes, getting a boost on minigame points, as well as like adding Zaya or whatever. But a lot of people are talking like this is just going to be in the league that comes out in a month, and I want to encourage people who are making their plans that this very well could be a special feature of Leagues 4. Because every league has their own special feature. They're not additive, right? You know, Leagues 1 was all Zaya. Leagues 2, like, was the launch of the new format. Leagues 3 special feature was it sucked. You know. So. And as we get into here, there are only 2 choices. They trimmed it down. Because they took Last Recall and they just gave everybody the Crystal of Memories at this point in time. So you got both Fairy's Flight and the Last Recall. They just gave it to everybody. Which is why, right, which is the other like reason why it's 100% or 0% depending on how you classify it. Because technically Last Recall wasn't in the most recent thing, but the effect was everybody got it. You didn't even get a choice. They just gave it to everybody, similar to how they just gave, you know, auto run to everybody. Yeah, so you got a Fairy Mushroom, which allows you to teleport to a Fairy Ring, a Spirit Tree, or a Tool Leprechaun, which is wild. We've never been able to teleport to an NPC. Where are the Tool Leprechauns? Have you ever thought about where the fuck you can teleport to when you can just teleport to a Tool Leprechaun with the thing that sits in your shield slot? What about all of those? They're in a bunch of really weird places, but you know, just a nice easy one, right? The Catherby one, right? This Catherby teleport. This is right next to the Catherby teleport that you unlock at level 87. Right, you teleport like right here at level 87 and the Lunar Spellbook unlocked. Or you just get Tool Leprechaun that's right there. And there's even one that's right over here too. So you could just Tool Leprechaun teleport over here to go get a close teleport to a shark spot, right? Go teleport to a big net fishing area. Yeah. Oh, hey, look. There's a place to get over here. Oh, hey, look. There's a place. There's 2 that are in the Gnome Stronghold. I've got 2 Gnome Stronghold teleports. Oh, hey, look. I've got a Lechia teleport. That doesn't require a Crystal Seed. Oh, I can get into this I can get into Yanil without completing the Watchtower quest on a teleport, just in my offhand. Of course, it doesn't teleport you into Karamja because there's no good way to get around anywhere in Karamja. But hey, look. Over here, pretty close. Over here, pretty close. Over here. Right off of the rip. Everybody starts with Varrock unlock. And there's this to a Leprechaun that's pretty close to a bank. Hey, look. Can you get a Champions Guild teleport for a couple clue steps? That's fun. Right? Pretty. Here's one that's close to a general store, right? Like, there's just so many of these fuckers just kind of around places, right? Oh, if you unlock Core End, here's one that's like right in a bank. That's fun. Right? Oh, I've got 4 farming guild teleports. Where do I want to go in the farming guild, right? Like yeah. So much utility. It was like it took like this was unlocked and like an hour into the league, and people were figuring out the cool things you could do to it 3 days into the league. This was mega cool. And I kind of expect it to come back. I'm going to put this as another 80% just because we've kind of seen it again. Right? Fairy's Flight. I definitely do expect something, but I could see them just 86ing the Fairy Ring, Spirit Ring part of it. And just making it like teleport to Tool Leprechauns and then also like teleport to like random NPCs and just have it be like a teleport to a bunch of random NPCs, you know, thing. Right. Similar to, you know, changing it up to change it up. And Globetrotter. So this Globetrotter gives you an amulet that gives you a full ornate jewelry box, aka 91 construction, right? All the skills necklace teleports, all the games necklace teleports, combat bracelets, ring of wealth, ring of dueling, and also all of the spellbook teleports in the game, almost all of them. Every single regular teleport in the game, you're just holding it. You go through a dialogue, it's a little clunky. You can only teleport to the regions you have unlocked, obviously, right? But this gives you a maxed house teleport hub in your inventory. Crazy good. Very underrated. A bunch of people picked Fairy Flights because there was like a bunch of cool stuff and it was new and different. Whereas a bunch of people are like, I can just build a maxed player-owned house. Like, you unlock this like 2 hours into the game, but sure. I actually think that this has a higher chance of coming in because this is just like insanely good and was very much underrated. Like having an unlimited teleport, right? You don't need to worry about law runes anymore. As an early Iron, law runes are a pain in the ass to get. Just getting to ignore law runes is so good. Right? Just like, oh, I've just got unlimited teleports to Varrock. I don't care. It's in this thing. And also this unlimited teleports to Varrock is also my unlimited teleports to, you know, the duel arena whenever I, you know, if I'm there, or freaking, I mean, even just like the amulet of glory teleporting to Draenor Village, like so good for clue steps, right? You don't have to build that, right? Getting to do all of those like stupid ass easy clue steps that are in Draenor Village without having to get to level 70 crafting for an amulet of glory is crazy for an Iron. People really don't appreciate how fucking hard it is to build Dragonstone jewelry teleports. So good. Oh, here's the big one. We've got a jump scare coming. So I will get myself some more sippy. Ah. Whew. And this one is going to be a doozy. I would love you to read this and to tell me, just agnostic of my approximation for you, which one you think is better. Mm-hmm. Yes. So this was the largest point of contention that the League community has ever had, figuring out which one of these was better. Mm-hmm. 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 Yes. Yes. So let me find you. And let me show you this thing. Okay. So, you probably aren't aware of this NPC. You might be aware of this shop in Keldegrim, which is the dwarf city, right? The underground dwarf city. Don't know if you've ever been in this shop, but this is an NPC store that sells construction supplies. This is where you buy gold leaves, magic stones, and condensed gold for 300k, 100k, 975k, or 10 mil a pop. And they go up in price because they're an NPC store. So when you buy one gold leaf, this actually goes to like 140k, and then like 160, and then if you're buying multiples at once, the price goes up pretty significantly until it definitely will over triple in price if you buy the last one. Charge per. %3 increase per. So not more than double. Yeah, so almost a mil. What do you use these for? Oh, they're for construction to build very high level play around house ingredients, aka the altar. The portal nexus, the thing that you need in order to max out your house. The altar that lets you change your spell books in your maxed out house. Mm-hmm. What? There's one here? So, yes, it is a tough choice. And it was a bit of a Sophie's choice to give you. Because, to this day... so I guess, I don't know to this day, but... over the course of the entire league, the community had not figured out which one was better. So let me go through this. Banker's note. You get a note, a piece of paper, -1 bank slot. That allows you to note or unnote items whenever you want. There's even some cool interfaces, so you can just like click it to have it, note all the items that that you had. Right? Or unnote a bunch of items. So you can be standing there at, say, the iron ores and just power mine, click, 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 get an inventory of items. And then, you note all of your iron into a noted iron stock. And then you click, 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 fill up your inventory, and then you click the note again, and it just renotes all of the iron. Right? It remembers the last thing you had it do. And so you just mine, click, mine, click. Literally one more click for an inventory. You can do that while you are fishing. AKA, it's kind of like this relic for the people who have this. Which is what I'm going to say is actually the biggest thing. Is that because Production Prodigy was the most commonly picked one, that made Banker's Note feel a lot better. But it's interesting that, right, I've already got Endless Harvest. I don't need to care about that. But, what else does it do? Oh, I don't know. It lets you walk into a raid with a stack of 10,000 prayer potions. And just unnote 5 of them, whatever the fuck you want. You can just go in with 10,000 sharks into a raid or into God Wars and just stay there for fucking ever. Like, just grind it out until you don't need to. Right? 10,000 Winries, exactly. 10,000 prayer potions. Now, let me tell you a story. Let me tell you a story. You know this skill called rune crafting, where you need to go from a bank and then you go over to an altar and you craft your runes there, and then you gotta go back to the bank and restart this lap. And it's really cool that with the Crystal of Memories that everybody gets, you just go over to the altar and you teleport back. Go grab yourself another inventory of rune essence, and then you just pop right back to the altar. And it's just like 5 clicks. You see it. Now imagine you just walk over to the altar with 100,000 pure essence in your inventory, and you just click on the altar. And then you click on your banker's note, and that unnotes 26 pure essence. And then you click on the altar, and then you click on the banker's note. And then you click on the altar, and then you click on the banker's note, because your runes stack, and you click on the altar, and you click on the banker's note, and you are crafting an inventory of runes every 4 ticks. You are crafting nature runes at blowpipe speed. You are crafting nature runes, but it's like you're fletching darts. Yep. It takes like 8 hours to max. It's still slow. With that, and also like 14 and 10 times experience. But yeah, it's crazy. It's wild. Yeah. So, it was a huge one. And it's funny because this was actually, right, that's actually the same thing. This was the, if you remember from Leagues 1, this was the auto deposit shit into your bank icon. And in the last leagues, they just showed off all of the relics, but they didn't show, like, they just showed off all of the pictures at one point in a teaser. And so we were like, what the fuck does that do? That's just what that is. But there's no way that's what that is, because this was after we saw the endless harvest. Like, that's already in effect. What the fuck are they reusing that asset for? But okay. Yeah. So I think that Banker's Note is going to come back. The funny thing is that Banker's Note and Last Recall kind of do the same thing. Right? Because you noticed that thing of like, oh, we're just sitting here. Well, you could do the exact same thing where this is a boss. And instead of teleporting back to the bank and grabbing a full inventory worth of food and going back and stuff, you just teleport to the boss and you just stay in the boss chamber and you just unnote food when you need it. You just come in with as many prayer potions as you have, your full stack of prayer potions and food. And then you just unnote them at the boss. And then, right, like you just alch all of the drops that the boss drops. And then you just teleport back to the bank when the boss drops you the item that you want. But your session ended. Yeah. Exactly. So, my hot take is that I think that they're actually just going to give everybody the Banker's Note and not give us the Last Recall. Or I think these are gonna be the same thing. Realistically. Because they kind of are. Just different. Alright. Now let me tell you what I picked. Fire Sale. None of you have played an Iron Man. But let me tell you what levels right, so not quite total levels, but like, when all of your levels are level 20, what's that? Like, but when you're level 20 in all of your skills, in between there and level 70 in all of your skills, the thing that gates every Iron's progress more than anything is actually GP. Okay? Because you need 60k to buy a fucking, like, a dragon scimitar, right? Like, it costs so much GP in order to buy a rune set of rune armor, right? You're like scraping by because buying fire runes from the shop, because you're not crafting your fire runes, you're just gonna go up to the store and buy some, right? Varrock. Aubrey's shop. Fire rune costs 4 gold. A death rune costs 180, but they go up 0.1% for every one that you buy. You're buying fire runes, right? The GE price is 172, and they don't go up every single one that you buy, right? You are paying 25% more for runes than main accounts base plus 0.1%. That'll go up pretty quickly because you're buying 300 of them at the same time, right? That's 30% increase. So you're spending like 40% more than mains are on fucking runes just to teleport places. Right? And you need to buy your rune armor, which which is also costs more from the shop than it does from the Grand Exchange because there's too many of them in the Grand Exchange. People alch them. Right? From that entire time, you are constantly like, oh my god, I just need more GP to buy more fucking Eyes of Newt to train my stats. All these runes are mega expensive. Oh my god, I want to use like buying enough feathers to train your ranged combat is like oh my god, but I used all of my feathers training fishing. Skipping that is insane. Now, thank you. Shops also note items for you, which is important because in the league, at the start of this league, all of the NPC shops auto restock their entire supply every single time you buy from them. So you go up to a charter. The charter ship shop. They have pineapples. They have buckets of sand and seaweed. You just buy them noted. It doesn't cost anything. You change with the mouse keys setting. Is in shops not tied to a relic. Yes, okay. Yep. Yeah, so you walk up. Thank you. Psykit. Thank you. So you walk up to any charter ship, which you get one in Karamja, and you just buy buckets of sand and seaweed. And congratulations, you can train crafting to 99. Literally for free. You just buy it. Oh, so it was just in fire sale. Okay, yes. Makes sense. I thought that was honestly a big part of I thought that was one of the things of fire sale, but that's good to know, and that also changes my approximation. But yeah, you buy unlimited pineapples. Congratulations, you have unlimited super compost for as much farming as you want to do. Literally free. You buy pineapple. Oh, hey, look. What's the... You ever heard of obsidian armor and weapons? Before you get a fire cape, there's this store. That's right out here. You can just go to it. It doesn't require anything. You walk there. They don't accept the fire cell, so you have to buy these with tow coal. In order to get tow coal, there's a few different ways to do it, but basically you sell runes to this rune shop. That's right down here. Hey, look, you've got fire sale. You just go buy death runes for free. They just hand them to you. You just click the buy button a bunch of times. And then you hand them in, so it's one step removed. You're playing RuneScape. One step's not that hard. You can buy this level 60 required ranged weapon. You can buy a level 60 required sword, dagger, mace, staff. You can buy a cape that is that's basically a 99 skill cape. Oh, hey, look, you can get an offhand that gives you strength bonus. Literally, as soon as you get this, you just go over, you go, you go buy that. You go do that. No runes. Like, runes don't cost anything. GP isn't a problem. You just go over, you go buy whatever shit you want. And then, whenever you need GP to do random stuff, You just go over to a store and you just buy rune plate bodies from the guy that sells it in Edgeville, and you just alch them to order. Oh, hey, wait. And then every once in a while, there's this place. There's this stonemason. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. Tokol buying destroyed your hands. Yeah, you have to turn on Windows mouse keys, which I will definitely show people how to do. So, in Keldagrim, there was a place where you can buy these things that normally cost 975k, almost a mil for a magic stone. Condensed gold. These are mega high tier construction equipment. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Dragon Longsword and Xanaris. Yep. Yeah. So there are some regions that have these crazy things because you needed this in order to build like your higher tier things, like, I don't know, the Portal Nexus, or the altar that lets you change your spell books. But Fire Sale let you turn this into a training method. Because this right, this Crystal Throne here gives you 15,000 XP when you construct it. It just costs 14 mil. Nobody's ever made a bunch of them before, right? Because this is also 15,000 XP before your 10 times multiplier. Yeah. Whereas an oak larder gives you 480 XP. Granted, you get like 3 of these on an inventory, so it's more like, right, 12, 1300. Right? I mean, 1300. But is this 10 times the XP per time? It just costs an exorbitant amount of money. One that you would need to all but hack into the game. Now, if we're talking about doing shit that's not possible, when the hell has anybody ever trained construction with crystal thrones? I remember my big one was marble blocks. There was like a bench. Yes, this marble decorative bench for 3,000 XP. Because you could do 3 of those. You were just going back and forth in Remington, and I was just slamming these out. I was getting... Yeah, I bought Fire Sale. And then I dinked around for a day, and then I got 99 construction from like level 30 construction in like 8 hours. Including like getting all the supplies and stuff. Because, hey, look, you have unlimited GP. Just go, you just need to cut logs in order to make your, planks. And then you buy these from the store. Right? And they come stacked. So you just sit there and you just buy 10 fucking million of them. Every single time I needed gold, I just alched condensed gold. Right? Alched for almost 5 mil. Yep, you can buy black plants. Exactly. It was crazy. So, and it does fall off afterwards, right? Everybody has a bunch of GP. So the Banker's Note, people were definitely using Mega Late Game in order to stay at in order to stay at like God Wars forever. But I will postulate this before we finish off our evaluation. The thing that everybody wants to do a ton of super late game is raids. And you don't need a second inventory of shit in order to do raids. And all of the loot just gets sent to your bank. Right? Going into a raid with 10,000 prayer potions into a Tombs of a Masket is functionally indistinct than going into a Tombs of a Masket with 5 prayer potions, and you're saving a little bit of time from the like 8 tiles that you have to walk over to the bank that's right before it, right? Like, this doesn't really save you endgame, especially because the last recall and the Banker's Note do a lot of the same thing. So but this tier list is how likely I think they are to come in the next league. And for Fire Sale, I actually think it's not going to be in this next league. I will be overjoyed if it is, because I just thought it was fun. But I think that in part of reworking stuff, like, I don't think that this was unsuccessful. I think they just might save it for later. So, and I might even choose it again, but I don't know. I am choosing Varlamore, so I'm going to have another Stonemason shop, so that'll be really cool to ignore GP. And oh my god, let me tell you how quickly, when I got Fire Sale, like, because it catapults you into this next tier of points so quickly. And otherwise, this was the combat thing. So this actually got me into combat way faster than the people who wanted to be doing Banker's Note and save a bunch of time and not have to teleport back. Like, I actually think that Fire Sale saved me about as much time as Banker's Note did. In between how much slower teleporting back the Crystal of Memories was. The biggest thing is the Runecraft. Banker's Note did combo hella hard with Runecraft, and Fire Sale did not. So as somebody who wanted to max, that was kind of the big thing. Was Runecrafting without it felt for sure slower. So, at tier 4, the drop table turned into 3 times. Everybody auto-unlocked bigger and badder, so you didn't need to spend any Slayer points in order to unlock superior Slayers, and they got a 1 in 50 chance to spawn over a 1 in 100, I think. It might even be 1 in 200. And you got 5x Slayer points. And you just started getting Slayer points immediately instead of needing to do 9 tasks beforehand. 1 out of 200, so 4 times more common. 4 times more common. Alright, and then this was the same thing as we've seen before. Just a tiny bit different with how they changed it. Weapons with an attack speed above 4, so 5 or higher, will have it halved rounded down. So 5-tick weapons go down to 2-tick weapons, right? Halved. 2.5 rounded down, go to 2-tick weapons. 4-tick and below 3, halved rounded up. Yeah, so blowpipe went to 2 ticks. But yeah, basically the threshold was above 4, so 5 tick. Because 5 tick weapons and 4 tick weapons both went to 3 ticks. But this feels, the way this reads, it looks like it excludes 4 tick weapons. But that's definitely not the case. You were definitely attacking a tick faster with like a whip. Your accuracy is doubled for ranged. Your melee accuracy is increased by 50%, but you also get ranged and magic defense increased by 50%. So you don't just take less damage, you just have more defense stat. Your armor is 50% better. Yeah, so the ranged one, you had a 10% chance to shoot an extra projectile with a different damage roll independent from the first one. So you're shooting sort of 10% more on top of attacking twice as fast. And you had the 90% ammo save. And enchanted bolts have a 2x chance to activate, which is wild. So enchanted bolts activating twice as much on top of 5 tick attack speeds, aka crossbows on rapid being turned into 2.5x attack speed instead of just 2x attack speed. This was like crossbows are king. Hello, Kaylee. We're making content. Brawler's Reserve, you got tankier. Successful hits have a 10% chance to deal double damage. So, yeah, more damage and 90% charges on melee weapons, whatever, cool. And immunity to all status effects. So you're immune to poison, venom, dragon fire, icy breath. But you can be rooted and stunned. But immune from poison, immune from venom, immune from dragon fire is crazy. Just like, I don't need a dragon fire shield. I don't need any dragon fire protection. I don't need any venom protection against Vorkath. I'm just gonna sit here and stab him, like. But, Thank you, Kaylee. We need to get in, and I can show. Oh yeah, do you like my face, my spooky face, and hair? It worked out well in VR chat, so I figured I'd export it here. And then here is the rats one. Plus 175% magic accuracy. Up from 120 from the last time we saw it, and 20% increased damage from 0. Right, which we can also see with melee. Right, 10% chance to deal double damage. Right, that's like kind of 20% damage. And 10% chance to fire an extra projectile, which is also about the same, but just flat plus 20% damage. You hit harder. All of your splats, all of your numbers are bigger. Saving your stuff. Oh, by the way, in multi-combat areas, you just splash. Every single spell is a barrage. A little bit less. Your barrage does deal more damage on the splash. Oh, and your freezes and binds always hit. And you get a spell book. You get a book that lets you change your spells without needing to go to a player-owned house. You can just always change your spells, no matter what. Oh, and you get this rune pouch that has 5 slots in it instead of 3, and you can upgrade it to a 6-slot rune pouch. Yes, definitely. I think I'm Winry the Whale Shark there. I don't know if you can find me off of Bunny Hearted's friends. But definitely. So they just kept adding shit, right? They did the thing, right? You save your stuff. Oh, and you got the AoE. Oh, and you got auto change your spell books. Oh, and you got a rune pouch for free. Oh, and it's a better rune pouch. So we've kind of seen these before. They got better, and I'm going to go in the same thing that I did last time, right? And I'm actually going to be a little bit... I'm going to be a little bit... we're going to go for a call here, and I think that there's actually a chance that they don't send back these 3 for the exact same reasons as before, right? With them wanting to change things up, and, you know, some developer comments talking about them wanting to change, you know, to this be a big change in combat, and I feel like it's heavily implied that they want to incorporate more switches. I think that they're not going to do this, locking people into one of the 3 of the combat pyramid. Yeah. On tier 5, up to 12 times experience, and minigame points are boosted by 5 times. 5 times minigames points. Wild. So much. And here we've got Treasure Seeker back. So we'll start with Bloodthirsty, which is interesting because in the previous one, everybody got superior creatures and 5 times Slayer points, and already 4 times the amount of superiors. So what is Bloodthirsty going to do? We've already given people a bunch of Slayer, and this is not it doesn't have the same thing. It's a little bit different. Players can receive and cancel their Slayer tasks at the Slayer Helm, or with the gem. Cool. Your expeditious saves you the trip. You can just stay there slaying. That's weird. Are they going to let you pick your task? No, they're not. Expeditious bracelets and bracelets of slaughter have a 35% chance to proc their effects, buffed from the 25% chance, which, with like the bracelet of slaughter is, factorially added. So this is like plus 50%. Effectively. Slayer monsters are buffed by chance by even more. 1 in 25 over 1 in 50. Doubled. So now 8 times more common instead of 4 times more common. Slayer points are just given upon killing a Slayer, right? So you just get Slayer points when you kill a superior that spawns 8 times more commonly. And you get 6 rolls on the drop table instead of the normal 3. So you get twice as much loot. And there's a 25% chance for a superior monster to spawn as a Bloodthirsty variant, which gives you 9 rolls on the table. Guaranteed clue scroll drop. 3 times chance of rolling on the superior drop table, which is stuff like the Imbued Heart or the Eternal Gem, which are some of the most sought after rolls, and a roll on the Bloodthirsty unique drop table, which we didn't know, and I don't really know what it is, but it felt like it was pretty close to like the rare drop table. I don't know. It was like, oh, 5 sharks, cool. But you get even more Slayer points. We're already getting 5 times Slayer points. Okay, yeah. So starting off with 5 times Slayer points. Getting Slayer points every single time you kill a superior. You're just rolling in Slayer points. And the Bloodthirsty variants aren't harder. They're just They're just superiors that have like a thing above their head. It was a little bit weirdly implemented. I could definitely see them changing this up a little bit, especially because we know this league has had more dev time. But I'm going to throw this on another 80%er. I don't know. So, maybe. I don't know. So the pick your Slayer task thing. So yeah, the thing, the reason why this doesn't have you choose your Slayer task, and a bunch of people were complaining about it and they want that back, is because it, like, part of the identity of Slayer is that you walk up and you don't know what you're gonna kill. You can't really plan on it, so you just kind of gotta like roll with the punches to a degree. And that's what like having the block list is for, right? And so you could block, extend, do all the stuff. Whereas when you pick your Slayer task, people were literally just picking the same task over and over again. Just bop, 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 bop. And they just, right, you're just like, I'm just going to do Dagonoths until I get the drop. And we're just going to constantly be slamming Dagonoths and Dagonoths and Dagonoths. And I'm not actually going to move. And all I'm doing is just getting Slayer experience for free because I'm farming the content that I want, right? Whereas this does have you go around and you're moving back and forth and you getting into that normal loop of Slayer where you're like, oh, I'm going to go do this for an hour and then I'm going to go do this for an hour and then I'm going to go do this for an hour. Like, you're going back and forth to different content. Oh, yeah, I'll do Hellhounds. Like, it's fine, right? The only thing... So the only thing that is different is that you're getting Slayer points doing this. And you're getting 5 times Slayer points. And your Expeditious bracelets on your bad task have a 35% chance of counting as 2 enemies instead of 1. So you're getting point streaks up the wazoo on 5 times points. You have a ton of points. So honestly, what happened was people didn't get to choose their Slayer task, but they just stand there and they got a task and they're like, I don't want that. And so they skipped the task for 30 points and then they got another one and then they skipped it and then they got a new one and then they skipped it and then they got a new one and they skipped it. And so it just became essentially choosing your task, right? Because you just kept on skipping it and skipping it and skipping it until you got Dagonoths. And then you're like, cool, I'm going to go to Dagonoths now. Right, in between just getting basically unlimited skips, especially when you have Bloodthirsty, it just turned, for a lot of people, it turned into choose your Slayer task, but with like 10 extra steps. Which is the biggest thing that makes me feel like it's less likely to come in, but we'll see. I think that if the 5 times minigame and 5 times Slayer points doesn't get added into the league, this actually becomes a lot more interesting. Hello, Panic. Which is why I think it has more of a chance to come in, because I'm still not sold that we're going to have more points. Okay. Infernal Gathering. We've seen this again. You get the Trailblazer Axe, which again acts as an Infernal Axe. And it's even better because it performs 1 tick quicker than normal tools. This is actually now better than a Crystal Axe, Pickaxe, or Harpoon. And that Crystal Harpoon performs 2 ticks quicker than normal tools. So again, you combine this with the Harvest, right? Where you're getting 2x resources. I saw people who would legit go up with the Trailblazer Harpoon, auto-cooking the fish, and the 2x gather. They would go up to Temporos, and they would legit one-cycle Temporos by themselves. Right? I saw a streamer who who had like 6 people in his Temporos lobby with him and was carrying them, hard carrying them, one cycling Temporos. Just like getting an inventory, dumping, getting an inventory, dumping, going back, slamming it. And like they helped some, right? And then legit one cycle, 100 to 0 in the first down of Temporos. Do it again. Wild how much quicker 2 ticks quicker on harpoon fishing is. Yeah, I very much think that that this is coming back. You know, same reason why this is especially, and it's going to be especially a thing that they're going to kind of look to push, because with the natural push and pull of balance, right? Last league, the most common picked was Production Prodigy. So the fact that this sort of doesn't work well with Production Prodigy meant that this was a little underperforming as far as like, percentage points goes. So I could see this staying, probably the same, but I could even see it getting better. And Treasure Seeker. NPCs have a 1 in 15 chance of dropping clues, including in-plane jars, which is up from a 1 in 20 that it was last time. 1 in 10 at first. Very funny how they're narrowing in. 10x clue vessels instead of 8x. Clue scrolls have the lowest amount of possible steps. Clue scrolls are already stackable, so everybody has stackable clues, but lowest rewards, and also reward caskets will always give the maximum amount of loot rolls. So you always get like 6 things in a clue, or 3 in a beginner. And like 3 times the rate of uniques. You're swimming and stuff. Oh, and there is a chance that you will get another casket every single time you open a casket, and there is another bonus chance for that to actually be a higher tier casket. So you can open a medium and get a hard for free. It was insane. There's always a ton of points tied behind clue scrolls. I don't expect that to change too much. I expect that to be changed a little bit, because it feels like there's a few too many points tied behind clue scrolls. That makes a lot of people feel like they kind of have to pick this one, because there's just so many tasks in doing clues. Right? So this one was the far and away big choice there. But yeah. Very big, very big. Up next, tier 6. This was the highest tier at the last league, but we still have one after this. Equilibrium. Each time you gain experience, you get 10% of your total level, and it's 20% if it's your lowest skill. So it even works super well for you to like train up and Tears of Gothics, push your account up. Really good for getting those last little things. And same Production Prodigy. Same thing, a little bit buffed. Where did we put this before? I forget. Oh yeah, right here. 60%. I think that they probably could remove it. Or they could like take this effect and throw it on something else, right? I think that this could be the bacon on a cheeseburger of another relic. Honestly, because I think it's interesting to a lot of people, but people don't want to pick just this. But I do think this is very worth it. This is a lot of XP, especially when you're like, mining something that's like really, really hella quick, or gives you multiple stages of XP. There's a lot of random things that this actually starts getting really wild with. Very interesting. But here's the next big problem, right? So we've got this gaining XP, we've got Farmer's Fortune, and we've got Ruinous Prayers. Ruinous Prayers is a combat one. It gives you access to an upgraded prayer book. All of these prayers, there's a bunch in here. These were initially pulled as the rewards to Desert Treasure 2, but they had to be removed because they did multiple betas and they just couldn't get them to like not be overpowered. So they just said fuck it. So yeah, the big ones here is that this had harder, more damage piety, more damage range, and more damage mage than the current ones, right? They just don't increase your defense for magic defense, and piety gives you a lot of defense too. And then the protection prayers, but any damage you take that is off prayer, or if you fuck up your prayer, you take 10% more damage. So it's supposed to be kind of like higher risk, high reward, right? If you fuck up a prayer flick, you're taking, if you accidentally prayer the wrong thing, you take 10% increased damage. And also there's just a lot of bosses that you like, well, I'm going to pray against the main source of damage and we're going to tank the other damage, but you're taking 10% more damage from the off damage. So that really adds up over time. Yeah. So that was really cool and a great way to throw something into the league. But this was kind of a snafu because you had people like me who picked the Farmer's Fortune relic because they thought it was cool, and other people were like, well, I just picked another combat relic, right? You got 2 combat relics, right, in between your damage one and the last one, which is a combat relic, and I just got 3, so I'm just gonna have more fun at this end game content, right? Like, and yeah, there's been multiple developer insights that said they just need to remove that. They just can't have any single combat and skilling be on the same tier. You just have to choose between, like, a tier needs to be just one thing and choosing how you do it. Instead of like, do you want to poke things or do you want to skill, right? It just doesn't ever mix well. So I'm glad that they learned it. And that said, I think that there's a very real possibility that there is like cool prayer books as part of this combat tree league, but I honestly don't believe it. I think that this is kind of one and done, and they're gonna, well, I don't know about one and done, but I would be very surprised if they ran Ruinous Powers and also gave like an Armadillo Powers or the Guthix Powers or whatever. Like, I don't know. These Ruinous Powers feel pretty like all encompassing. Like I think we would be pretty hard pressed to build 2 more series of prayer books that do, similar things that aren't just the same. So I don't think they're going to run that one back. And lastly, Farmer's Fortune. Players have a 20% chance to save the seed when it was planted. You get 20% repeating, right? Or whatever, factorial, I think. Right? Because you got a 20% chance to save the seed again. So you get more than 20% more seeds. And your farming patches grow instantly and never catch disease. You just stand there at the patch, plant, harvest, plant, harvest, plant, harvest. Harvesting farming patches 25% faster. You just instantly slurp up all of the herbs in one action, and you give triple the yields, turning them into banknotes, and you get normal XP. So you just rock up to that thing with a fistful of Ranner seeds, and you just plant, harvest, plant, harvest, plant, harvest, plant, harvest. Cool. That was my 7 Ranner seeds. I've got 150 Ranners. I'm gonna go make as many prayer potions as I'm gonna need for the next week. Like, it was insane. It turned farming in Herblore into free 99s. And yeah, you just sitting there slamming it out. This was especially cool too for the tricksters, right? Who were auto pickpocketing master farmers. So they just had a fistful of master farmer seeds, and they can just go get as many limports as they needed basically instantly. Very fun. That said, I don't actually think this one's going to come back either. I thought that was cool. I could see it. I'm going to put the Runist powers down on 20%. It's non-zero. This definitely has more likely chance to come in. I could see them throwing this and some of the botanist stuff together. Because again, I think this was just a little bit samey. With it's just the Herblore relic. But we'll see. We'll see. It was very powerful. It was very powerful. Right, because getting 3 times, like, farming instant seeds, never catching disease, and getting 3 times herbs was also really good for combat, right? Like, you didn't need, because remember, we're all iron accounts. You don't need, like, I'm going to throw some snoozes on. Like, it's pretty tough to get your hand on, like, Torstals for super combats early. Or, like, you know, getting enough ranged potions in order to do the farming that you want. So getting more herbs also affects your combat to a degree as well. But not as much as a prayer book does, right? Whew. Okay. Let's bust this out. Berserker. Wait, am I missing? Oh, there's 2 more tiers. Yeah, so they added 8 tiers of relics. So there's the last 2 tiers are also combat relics. In tier 7, you get maximum XP bonus, which is great. And minigame points are boosted by 8 times on top of the 16 times. This is where most people maxed their accounts. And then this one was just kind of like for fun. Berserker. Increased damage by 0.4% for every hit point missing. The Razor's Edge. And the first time you hit an NPC, you deal your max hit. This one was very powerful and had a Razor's Edge. I 100% think is going to be in the next league. 100%. I don't know if they're going to do the auto max hit. Because the thing with the auto max hit was that it was unintentionally good with ranged attacks. Especially long range ranged attacks. Like the Tumakin Shadow or the Bow of Ferdinand. Because when you took your Tumakin Shadow, that attacks 10 tiles away, but is a 3-tick attack speed. You can, at maximum range, fire 3 projectiles into the air before the first one makes contact. And the way that the game is coded, the game sort of auto rolls the damage before it makes contact. Well, as far as the hitting the max hit, right? So if you stood at max range with a ranged weapon, you got 2 max hits in a row, which usually killed something. Right? The whole, if they're at full health, the first time you hit them, I don't think that was intended for somebody who's attacking with a quick attacked weapon, aka literally every weapon from your main style. Right, with a crossbow or something, and you get to fire 2 shots off that are going to be guaranteed max hits. And that also means that they guarantee hit, too. You just straight up slammed something for like 120 damage after all of your like damage buffs or whatever. I don't think that that's going to come back. Very, very powerful. And because that was the other thing too, was that this comes with a thing that increases the damage that you deal. It increases your max hit. So you've got people walking around with like max hits of like 80 because they've got like 10 hit points remaining. And you're just like, it doesn't matter. I auto kill everything from max range from 10 tiles away. Soul Stealer. The player's minimum hit is increased by 10% of their max hit. So you sort of have a little bit of that Osmotin's Fang effect, where you're dealing less of your low damage. Very, very nice. Very, very underappreciated. And 50% chance you're restoring 10% of the damage you deal. Again, effective 5% HP and prayer point restoration. Prayer becomes free. And doesn't work on AoE. Definitely, just like last time, I definitely think that this is going to come back in some way. Yep. These two, basically the same. Yeah, prayer, hit point, damage. Strongly believe that this is going to come back. This was a little bit nerfed from before, but still just as good. And I definitely think that that's going to be one of the like capstone things on your progress of whatever skill tree they're making. And Weapons Master, it's back again. Special attacks always result in a successful hit they can't miss, and their minimum hit damage is increased by 20%. Your special attack energy is restored by 30% every 30 seconds. The Light Bearer will increase it, will also double it. And if you do not have enough special attack to perform a special attack, so this doesn't reduce the amount of specs you can do. So a 50% spec still costs 50% spec, but if you don't have enough energy to perform it, you can just perform one by sacrificing 25 hit points. Which 25 hit points for 25 spec is whatever. 25 hit points for 100% spec is a lot. Definitely very real that they put that on the same tier as Soul Stealer. But, so you slam 3 whatevers, and they auto hit, and their damage is increased by 20%. Or hey, that Saradomin Godsword that heals you for the amount of damage that you deal. Like, you just sit here and you just click the spec button, and it auto hits. It has increased damage, and it heals you back. So you just spec the living bejesus out of them. How many times do we have to keep buffing this old man? Definitely coming back. Again, same as before. They're going to find some other way to handle this. I don't think they're going to do the life drain thing. But I could definitely see like putting a cap on it and the making them auto hit being very good. And on the last tier, you get 5 times drop table. So crazy. And you got all of your relics. Let's go farm those mega rares. Go get your twisted bows. Very fun. Guardian relic. The sleeper upon this gives you a guardian horn that gives you a thrall for 30 minutes. Basically forever, because you can just re-summon the thrall whenever. So you just always have a thrall that rolls between a 6 and a 15. has an attack speed of 5 and an accuracy of a bajillion. The Guardian Thrall chooses whatever attack style has the lowest defense. So it's always hitting 6 through 15 and an accuracy of a bajillion. Oh, in multi-combat area, it also throws AoE. It's got barrages. It's got unlimited. It's got like, it's a Thrall that does 3 to 5 times damage, right? A 4 times the damage of Thrall, which is the best damage increase in the game you can get. You can also still use Arceus Thralls, and they also have AoE attacks. It was bananas. I think that it has a pretty high chance of coming in, but I don't know. I'd probably put it at like a 75%er, so I guess that's an 80. It felt pretty good, but it wasn't like special. It also forced the developers to fix Thralls in a few areas, right? Doing quite a few under the hood upgrades in order to make it so that thing actually worked. In places that it was supposed to work but wasn't. Very funny, which makes me think that because they have that under the hood coding done, that they're going to find some way to do this kind of again. And it was really good, right? It was just a thing that just increased your damage by a ton. Just gave you a thing that just did more damage. No matter where you were doing. You're just like, the Thrall is just going to attack. Cool. Executioner. This one was a big one. It gives you the Sage's Axe, which lets you insta-kill targets that have less than 20%. It's a 5-tile attack, so you have this swap. You just swap the weapon, and it just kills things.
You see, want to
Thank you for the follow.
you.
And it still does like damage reduction, whatever. Basically, this is the axe that makes you skip every single enrage phase for every boss fight in the game. Right? The last little bit of every boss's health pool, they always turn on an enrage phase. They always throw all of their mechanics at you, and it's the hardest part of the boss fight. Skip it. Don't care. This also works in raids. You have 5 people in a theater of blood. 1 person. Throwing things. 1 person brings the axe. Everybody in the raid gets to skip the enrage phase. It actually didn't do too big of a splash, so I don't actually think it has a very high chance of coming back in. I would honestly give it like a 40%er. Just got a 120 Vork? Hell yeah. Congratulations. Were you ranging it or meleeing it? All right, last one. Undying Retribution. Ranging. Hell yeah, that's the way I do it. Just don't tell. We've got one friend around here that'll say you should be stabbing her, but heck yeah, that's good. What's your KC? Upon death, your player's hit points and prayer points are fully restored. You get a free death. 8 hits at 177. That's pretty good. I'm so glad that you're good at getting head. And it damages all enemies in a 7x7 area around you. 3 tiles away from you. It deals 200% of your prayer level. Retribution. So you go over to a thing and it does a giant burst of damage and you get a free life. Wow, that's really powerful. You can die for free. And you even get a bonus for it. It's got a cooldown of 3 fucking minutes. Every 3 minutes on a raid. That's every fucking room. You can just die for free. Whatever. Game's easy. And it doesn't count towards penalties in raids. Your points are deducted. It doesn't matter. Easy life. Oh, I wonder if that might have a thing to do if that might wombo combo with this berserker that makes you deal more damage for having no health, for having no hit points. So you just walk around at 20% hit points, blasting things. Oops, you fucked up. You died. Whatever. Free resurrect. I guess I'll go back down to like 70% hit points or whatever. And then by the time you're at the next room in the raid, well, my respawn's up. I think that was massively hella fun. I think that there's a pretty good chance that they'll come back, but I actually would be semi-surprised if it came back. I think there's about a 50% chance that it comes back. At the very least, the like free death. I don't think the AoE damage. I think that was like the coolest thing. That like, oh, by the way, and you also kill Jad. Like, but I could definitely see the like, yeah, the dying and do a cool thing. I don't know if it's exactly going to be the exact same thing, which also kind of puts it down. But I think the free life, right, the free death is the most important thing. Part of that. Hoo-wee, and I have been talking for 4 hours. So much content. And I need to go to bed because my voice is starting to be a little strained. Strained voice. Yeah, and we've got a gooberino to send some love to. So I need to get going because my voice is starting to really start to hurt. And I need to head out before I deal